Chapter 699. Donghua Shui Ying's soul was much stronger than before, and learning a complete absolute art was much easier for him. His thinking speed was also not affected much. Just as I expected, Donghua Shui Ying was suppressing his joy. This is indeed an absolute art of the Tao of slaughter. Previously, he had merely made his judgment based on the rumors of the outside world. Even though he was 70 to 80% confident, he was still worried that his judgment would be wrong. 6 sever sword styles. Both of Donghua Shui Ying's eyes were flickering with countless sword lights. The first sword style of the Tao of slaughter, the second sword style of the Tao of slaughter. He rapidly began to comprehend and learn them. He was someone who created the Tao of slaughter and could comprehend the first 5 styles of this absolute art with a single glance. What a good Tao of slaughter! Shui Ying praised in his heart. His killing intent is hidden deeply and hibernating. He isn't in a rush during battle, and at the most crucial moment, he can display his killing move without any warning, catching the enemy by surprise and killing them in an instant. The creator of the 6 sever sword styles, Donghua Shui Ying, could not help but admire him. The Tao of slaughter, he comprehended, was to condense his power in an instant before unleashing it. As for the core concept of the 6 sword sever styles, it was not to kill the enemy, but to lay low and hide one's killing intent. Even the power of the sword moves was quietly accumulating power. At a certain moment, it would suddenly reveal its terrifying fangs and kill with one strike. Chongshi's forefather looked at Donghua Shui Ying with astonishment. Currently, Donghua Shui Ying was holding onto the gray cloth, and his eyes were flickering with sword lights. His terrifying killing intent would occasionally be concealed and occasionally burst out. When it was concealed, Chongshi's forefather could not sense any killing intent, but when it burst out, he could not help but feel fear and tremble in his heart. What a terrifying killing intent! Chongshi's forefather could not help but feel fear growing in his heart. This honored guest Feishu probably did not use his full strength when fighting against Judge Emissary Sheng and the others. That's good too. The stronger he is, the more help he would be to my Cheng family. Chongshi's forefather calmed his heart. If he wanted to deal against my Cheng family, he would have done so a long time ago. He hasn't done anything for such a long time, and has even taught Yen'er for such a long time. He should have some feelings for Yen'er. Towards this mysterious and terrifying honored guest of Feishu, Chongshi's forefather could only place his hopes on the other party. One impressive 6 sword styles of sever. The sword light in Donghua Shui Ying's eyes dissipated, and he regained his gentleness. He casually passed the cloth in his hand to Chongshi's forefather. Chongshi's patriarch, the Sky Fire Palace would most likely not let this matter rest. Furthermore, the other 2 holy grounds would also pay attention to this place. If the treasures you obtained can arouse the greed of the Sky Fire Palace, I'm afraid it can also arouse the greed of the other 2 holy lands. Yes, Chongshi's forefather nodded. What kind of treasure is it? Donghua Shui Ying asked. A true god weapon. Chongshi's forefather did not hide it either. After all, the Sky Fire Palace already knew about it, and it was no longer a secret. There was no need to hide it from honored guest Feishu and make Feishu unhappy. Oh, Donghua Shui Ying nodded. Chongshi's forefather was slightly nervous when he saw that. He was afraid that honored guest Feishu would have greedy thoughts because of this. He hurriedly said, "If honored guest Feishu wishes to inspect the true god weapon, I can send my honored guest incarnation to inspect it." "No need," Donghua Shui Ying said indifferently. Donghua Shui Ying indeed did not care about the true god weapon that was highly valued in this world. In the deity world and abyss, even though true god weapons were precious, with his level, he could still come into contact with some of them. Just him alone had 3, and 2 of them contained the Tao of eternity. His wife Jing Xiu also had one. And after obtaining the true god weapon, he understood one thing. True god weapons were indeed helpful in opening a Tao, but the help was limited. If one could easily open a Tao, then Bloodblade and Monarch Green would not have only grasped 3 Taos. Temporal Island Lord and Myriad God Palace Head would also not have grasped a single Tao. The Taos comprehended would usually be extremely compatible with one's body. Dongwu Shui Ying had comprehended the true meaning of the world when he was a transcendent. Furthermore, he was the first to grasp the true meaning of mirage within the true meaning of the world. He was naturally talented in this aspect, and with the help of many opportunities, he finally opened the Tao of mirage. For instance, among the grade 2 true meanings he comprehended when he was a transcendent, the earliest was the embryonic form of the true meaning of extreme piercing. The Tao of slaughter he comprehended was also a Tao that gathered energy at a single point. One's understanding of the world, emotions, the myriad existences, and the realm of one's cultivation heart would all affect the direction of cultivation. External opportunities would only push one forward. Thus, if he could obtain a suitable true God weapon, it might be of help. But if it was not suitable for him, like the temporal temple, even if it was placed in front of Dongwu Shuiying, he might not be able to open the Tao of time and space. You really don't need it? Chongsher forefather could not help but ask. Honored guest has done a great favor for my Chung family. Inspecting the true God weapon is a small matter. No need, Dongwu Shuiying said. He felt that the Tao of mirage and Tao of slaughter were sufficient for him to research. For the time being, he did not have any desire for other Taos. I've already said that the Sky Fire Palace and the other 2 holy grounds will probably be paying attention to this place. If I help your Chung family, I will definitely clash with them. Thus, I hope to understand more about them. Dongwu Shuiying said. That is natural. Chongsher forefather nodded. He then took the initiative to explain. Let me first talk about the 3 holy grounds, the Sky Fire Palace. With Chongsher forefather taking the initiative to explain, Dongwu Shuiying soon understood the power structure of this world. The 3 holy grounds all had paragons. The Sky Fire Palace and the Su Empire each had 2 paragons, while the Spectre Prefecture of the 3 holy grounds only had 1. In this world, there were a total of 5 paragons. They occupied the highest echelon and had also plundered many treasures and absolute arts, stabilizing their position. There were many absolute arts in this world. They were all passed down from the previous epochs. Furthermore, these absolute arts did not have any restrictions. As long as one comprehended them, they could be imparted. They would create a new original copy and impart it. Thus, there were many absolute arts that had been passed down from epochs to epoch. Why did Ancestor Devil's ancient star map lead me here? Dongwu Shuiying was puzzled. The more he understood, the more puzzled he became. In this world, because of the suppression of the laws, ordinary people would not be able to teleport or travel through space, unless they opened their own Tao, surpassing the normal laws of the heaven and earth. Only Dongwu Shuiying's mirage world could teleport. Thus, their journey was very slow, from the Chung family to the Sky Fire Palace. Even if they rode on the Golden Termination Fire Cloud ship at full speed, they would still need more than 5 years to arrive. Of course, while they were rushing, their incarnations had already reported everything. Honored guest Fei Shue. Within the Sky Fire Palace, a red-haired man whose entire body was covered in flames frowned. Judge Sheng and the 6 law enforcers all appeared with their incarnations. They were incomparably respectful. Palace Master, that honored guest Fei Shue's strength is unfathomable. He was able to kill the law enforcers with one move. 5 law enforcers joined hands to attack him, but 3 of them were killed in an extremely short period of time. The remaining 2 ran quickly and hid in the Golden Termination Fire Cloud ship. If we had run any slower, we would have all been killed, the golden-haired judge reported respectfully. Too powerful. His strength far surpasses us, the law enforcers also said. The red-haired man, covered in flames, frowned and nodded. He waved his hand and said, "All of you can leave." Yes. The incarnations immediately dissipated. At this moment, another figure walked over. It was a black-haired, golden-robed man. His eyes were faintly covered in golden flames. He smiled and said, "Why? Did you fail? I said it was just a true God weapon. Why did you have to forcefully snatch it?" "Brother, The red-haired man frowned. True god weapons are extremely rare. We have all opened up our Tao. That true god weapon is of limited help to us. However, our Skyfire Palace has many almighties. How could the Chung family possess such a treasure like a true god weapon? The black-haired, golden-robed man shook his head and smiled. Although the Skyfire Palace was divided into factions, the relationship between the two of them was extremely good, because they were the only two existences in this world who had opened up the Tao of Fire. Naturally, they discussed the Tao and helped each other. That honored guest Fei Xue is so strong. He doesn't seem like a stage, four-world deity. The black-haired, golden-robed man said. I don't think so either. It could be a newly emerged venerable who purposely disguised himself. The red-haired man was slightly worried. Brother, if a newly emerged venerable appeared, the impact would be huge. Let's go take a look at the River of Time. If he is a venerable and has already transcended, he wouldn't be in the River of Time. The black-haired, golden-robed man said. Yes. The red-haired man nodded. Who? The two of them looked towards the distant sky. This layer of space started to become blurry, and an even deeper layer of space appeared. On that layer, there was a majestic and surging river. The two palace masters of the Sky Fire Palace looked at the River of Time. Within the River of Time, there were countless life forms. They could follow their karma to find these countless life forms. Honored guest Fei Xue. The two of them followed their karma with honored guest Fei Xue to search. Very soon, because Dongbua Shui Ying had come to this world, they would be able to find Dongbua Shui Ying in the corresponding section of the River of Time in this world. And then, the two palace masters of the Sky Fire Palace looked at the scene in front of them in astonishment. Within this River of Time, there was an incomparably huge and lofty figure in the river. He was too huge. The thickness of his waist seemed to occupy a tenth of the width of the River of Time. When he stretched out both of his hands, he could probably envelop half of the River of Time. Even an ordinary stage, four-world deity would be as small as an ant in front of such a towering giant. How can he be so huge? The two palace masters of the Sky Fire Palace were dumbfounded. He indeed did not transcend, but how could, seeing such a huge and lofty figure within the River of Time, the two palace masters of the Sky Fire Palace could faintly feel threatened? Let alone the two palace masters of the Sky Fire Palace. Even the Su Empire and Spectre Prefecture of the three Holy Lands were looking through the River of Time. They wanted to see if honored guest Fei Xue was really a stage, four-world deity. The moment they saw him, they were also stunned. This figure? In front of him, the River of Time is just a small stream. The two emperors of the Su Empire and the Spectre Prefecture Master were both stunned. They had never seen or heard of such a figure before. It was not even recorded in history. In their world, there had never been a stage, four-world deity who had opened his Tao. Hence, they were somewhat dumbfounded. Chapter 700. The five paragons from the three holy grounds of this world, the Sky Fire Palace, Su Empire, and Spectre Prefecture, could vaguely understand that this guest elder flying snow was definitely extraordinary from that towering figure that was much larger than ordinary stage, four-world deities in the River of Time. After all, the scene within the River of Time could not be faked. Everything was a natural manifestation of the laws of the universe. They knew that this guest Fei Xue was not ordinary, but what was so special about him? What was so special about him? Why was he so special? These were all unknown. The past did not record it, but the present did. Guest Elder Flying Snow was the only stage, four-world deity across the many epochs of this world who could have such a huge body in the River of Time. His waist was just 1/10 the width of the River of Time. Such a body was simply unfathomable. Paragon Emperor Su, you are the most knowledgeable. Do you know why this guest Fei Xue is so special? I don't know. I've never heard of it. Brother Golden Flame, do you know? I'm also thinking hard, but I can't understand. However, the laws of the universe are not fake. Among the five supremacies, the strongest were Supremacy Emperor Su and the Golden Fire Palace Lord. The other three were slightly weaker. Although the Spectre Prefecture Lord had established a sacred land, It was because the Tao he established was rather strange and unique. Everyone, such an unfathomable stage, four-world deity, has never appeared in the previous epics. Could it be related to the legendary ancient shrine? Ancient shrine? Right. I'm afraid only the ancient shrine would have such an unfathomable matter. But the ancient shrine is in my Su Empire. I dare say that this guest Feishua has never entered it before. Paragon Emperor, Su said directly. He was the oldest paragon in this world, and he was also very strong. He had long occupied the mysterious ancient shrine and built the Su Empire around it. Everyone has been to the ancient shrine before. If guest Feishua was an ordinary stage, four-world deity before entering, he definitely wouldn't have gained anything. Everyone knows how terrifying the ancient shrine is. Amen. But other than the ancient shrine, I can't think of any other reason. The five venerable ones discussed among themselves, their hearts full of doubts. This matter was caused by my sky fire palace. Feihua and I are responsible for investigating the background of this guest elder Feishua, Venerable Golden Flame said. Chung family. Currently, within the Chung family, the family's disciples, guards, maids, guest chamberlains, and elders were looking at Dongbua Shui Ying in a completely different light, and their attitudes were much more respectful. They all knew very well that this was an existence that could kill almighties as easily as killing chickens. On the other hand, the Seventh Highness, Chong Yin, was rather proud of himself. He would often ask his master, Dongbua Shui Ying, for advice on sword arts. Instead, it was Chongshi's forefather, Grand Elder, and a few others who had extremely high statuses. They knew that the Sky Fire Palace would definitely not let this matter rest. Years passed by, traveling from the Heaven Fire Palace to the Chung family. Under the suppression of the rules, one's maximum speed was only several tens of thousands of miles per second. With the vastness of this world, it would take several years to travel continuously. Within the courtyard, Dongbua Shui Ying sat cross-legged on the grass with his sword placed on his knees. His eyes were closed as he meditated. Occasionally, he would pick up the divine sword on his knees and display 2 or 3 sword moves. Not far away, the white-robed young man, Chong Yin, was staring at his master with his eyes wide open. Formidable, too formidable. At first glance, it might seem ordinary, but the more I experience it, the more unfathomable it becomes. Chong Yin exclaimed in his heart. How could he know that the sword techniques that Dongbua Shui Ying was casually displaying were the final 6 sword style of the 6 sword sever styles? As an existence who opened the Tao of slaughter, he only took 3 days to completely master the first 5 sword styles of the 6 sword sever styles. However, he spent much more time on the 6th style, spending over 200 years to grasp it. Because his main body was in the distant Crimson Rock Mountain in the material world, only 2 years had passed in the outside world. After mastering it, Dongbua Shui Ying began to carefully study how the 6th sword style of the 6 sword sever styles was created and how the Tao of slaughter's profundities were combined. One had to know that the Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction, who was very close to Monarch Green in strength, had comprehended the second half of the Blood Demon scripture and created his own absolute art. Learning an absolute art that was suitable for one's Tao was one aspect. More importantly, one could use it to spy on how the Creator created the absolute art. Creating an absolute art that was most suitable for oneself would have the greatest power. After all, even the same Tao of slaughter had its differences. As for sword moves, external appearances were the most superficial. Using swords, sabers, spears were the most superficial. The core was the laws and profundities within. Learning an absolute art of the Tao of slaughter has increased the power of my Tao of slaughter's attacks by several times. Dongbua Shui Ying was filled with joy, but this isn't enough. If I were to create my own absolute art in the future, it might not be impossible for me to fight against rulers. Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction was an existence who created his own absolute art and could fight against rulers. There were many in the deity world and abyss who wanted to learn from Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction. Dongbua Shui Ying did not think that he could do it, but he had his own advantages. His Tao of Mirage and Tao of Slaughter was a combination that even Heavenly Emperor of Great Destruction would be envious of. Oh! Suddenly, a terrifying aura rushed over from afar. Dongbua Shui Ying, who was seated cross-legged in the courtyard, looked up. With a wave of his right hand, Seventh Highness Chong Yin, who was training in the distance, was controlled to fly behind Dongbua Shui Ying. Chong Yin was puzzled. "Teacher, what's going on?" Watched by the side obediently. Dongbua Shui Ying stood up and ordered. "Who?" Within the Chung family, Chongshi forefather let out an angry roar. The clan's array was also activated. From afar, a dazzling stream of flames brought with it a terrifying aura as it descended towards the Chung family. This aura caused Dongbua Shui Ying to frown. "Paragon, that flame was not just the lightning fire formed by the laws of this world. It was a terrifying flame condensed after opening a Tao. Although it was not comparable to Paragon Hua Chung, it was enough to make Dongbua Shui Ying feel threatened. From the looks of it, he should have learned some absolute art related to the Tao of Fire. The paragons of this world cannot be underestimated. After all, most of them would be able to find an absolute art that suits them." This stream of flames smashed into the courtyard. It was incomparably tyrannical, and an unseen might surged out from all directions. The entire Chung family's array was also revolving. The Black Waves were trying their best to suppress it. After all, this was just a remnant wave emitted by a paragon. The array of the Chung family was still able to hold on. However, half of the courtyard was destroyed. Behind Dongbua Shui Ying, the grass was still green and was not affected at all. So. 4 figures came over. They were none other than Chongshi forefather and the other 3 powerful existences elders. They saw that the one descending along with the stream of flames was a red-haired male bathed in flames. He stood there with his hands behind his back. His eyes were filled with boundless might, and the red flames on the surface of his body surged. This caused Chongshi forefather and the rest to feel the threat of death. Right Palace Head. The hearts of Chongshi forefather and the rest tightened. Although they were prepared, when they saw one of the 2 palace heads of the Sky Fire Palace, the right palace head, Feihua Palace Head, they still felt their hearts trembling. Right palace head of the Sky Fire Palace? Chong Yin, who was standing behind Dongbua Shui Ying, was also nervous. He could not help but take a step closer to Dongbua Shui Ying. Dongbua Shui Ying stood there with a sword on his back. Looking at the red-haired male who was emitting a pressure, he smiled. "Feihua Palace Head." Chongshi forefather and the other 3, as well as 7th Highness Chong Yin, could not help but feel admiration. Facing Feihua Palace Head, they were all flustered. However, honored guest Fei Shue was still as calm as ever, as though he was facing an ordinary enemy. Interesting. Feihua Palace Head looked at the black-robed young man with a divine sword on his back. He looked like an ordinary stage 4-world deity, but he had seen the River of Time and knew that this honored guest Fei Shue wasn't ordinary. "You want to help the Chung family?" Feihua Palace Head asked casually. "Yes." Dongbua Shui Ying nodded. His reply was also very casual. "Then wouldn't you be making an enemy of my Sky Fire Palace?" Feihua Palace Head asked again. The hearts of Chongshi forefather and the other 4 started beating faster. They were extremely nervous. "I have no intention of making an enemy of the Sky Fire Palace. But if the Sky Fire Palace doesn't want to let this matter rest, then so be it," Dongbua Shui Ying said. "Oh." Feihua Palace Head frowned slightly. Too calm, too indifferent. There weren't many who dared to say making an enemy of the Sky Fire Palace in such a calm manner. For a world deity like you to have such strength, you must have had some special encounters, right? Feihua Palace Head asked. "Some encounters." Dongbua Shui Ying didn't say anything after finishing his sentence. "Even if you don't say, I know that you have been to the ancient shrine," Feihua Palace Head said. At the same time, he was observing Dongbua Shui Ying's expression, trying to determine his own guess. Dongbua Shui Ying's heart moved when he heard that. "Ancient shrine?" A stage 4 world deity like him had displayed such heaven-defying combat power. From the information obtained by the Chung family, it should have never happened before. However, the other party thought that he had been to the ancient shrine. Ancient shrine? Shuang had a vague feeling that this ancient shrine was definitely an extraordinary place. It could even be related to the reason why the ancestor devil had led him here with that star atlas. Chapter 701. What kind of place is the ancient shrine? Dongbua Shuang asked. You don't know? Feihua Palace Master sneered. I don't know. Dongbua Shuang nodded. Feihua Palace Master frowned. Such a powerful stage 4 world deity had never appeared before in history. That was why they guessed that it might be related to the mysterious ancient shrine. Then why are you so much stronger than powerful existences? Feihua Palace Master frowned and shouted. It's just a normal cultivation. Dongbua Shuang casually replied. Feihua Palace Master's lips curled into a cold intent. Honored guest Feishua, you should know that other than the other 4 paragons, it has been a very long time since anyone dared to be so insolent in front of me. Insolent? Is that so? Dongbua Shuang asked. Being disrespectful means being insolent. Feihua Palace Master sneered. By the side, Chongshi forefather, the 3 powerful existences elders, and 7th Highness Chongyin were all extremely nervous. If it was them, they would not be able to speak so calmly and casually with Feihua Palace Master. After all, this was Feihua Palace Master. He was one of the 5 existences that stood at the peak of this world, looking down on the countless lives. Usually, when other powerful existences faced these 5 existences, they would not dare to be disrespectful. Being disrespectful means being insolent? Dongbua Shuang chuckled. Interesting. In that case, respected Feihua Palace Master, if there's nothing else, please leave. I still have to guide my disciple in his cultivation and will not accompany you any further. Guide your disciple in his cultivation? You better survive from my hands first. Feihua Palace Master suddenly roared. Since he could not get anything out of him, then he would fight. From the battle, he would be able to understand the other party's foundation. Hong! Feihua Palace Master abruptly punched over. Hong! A terrifying stream of fire shot over. Everywhere it passed, everything would be destroyed. Countless black cracks appeared in the surrounding space. This was a flame controlled by someone who had already opened his Tao. It was abnormally tyrannical. This scene caused Chongshi forefather, Chongyin, and the others to feel a chill in their hearts. Humph! Dongbua Shuang also punched out. The surface of his fist was covered with a layer of black armor. His fist blasted out, causing the space to distort and tear. His speed was even above Feihua Palace Lord's, forcefully smashing onto Feihua Palace Lord's fist. Fist against fist. Bam! Feihua Emperor instantly transformed into a stream of light and was sent flying. His face was still filled with astonishment as he coughed out fresh blood. Dongbua Shuang snorted coldly. Stay within the clan's formation. Don't go out. Swoosh! Dongbua Shuang also soared into the sky and chased after Feihua Emperor. This. Chongshi forefather was stunned. The 3 powerful existences elders were also stunned. 7th Highness Chongyin was even more stunned. Feihua Emperor, who stood at the peak of this world, was actually sent flying with a single punch. Feihua Palace Master's status in this world was equivalent to the sovereign status in the deity world in Dark Abyss. If an ordinary major existence were to appear out of nowhere and send the sovereign flying with a single punch, the cultivators of the deity world in Dark Abyss would all be dumbfounded. Feihua Emperor could feel the terrifying energy engulfing his entire body. His fist was completely shattered, and the bones in his right arm were broken. His entire body trembled as he coughed out fresh blood and was sent flying tens of thousands of kilometers away. How could this be? Feihua Emperor did not dare to believe it. I'm a paragon, and I've even cultivated an absolute art. How could I be sent flying by a stage 4 world deity with a single punch? South Dongbua Shuang appeared in midair opposite him. He shook his head inwardly. I've used too much strength, thinking that the paragons of this world have absolute arts and cannot be underestimated. I've used 50% of my strength. Clearly, it's still too much. Even though there are absolute arts in this world that can increase one's strength and speed, they are far from being comparable to the myriad devil true body. Forget about this world. Even in the deity world and dark abyss, there was no absolute art that could be compared to the myriad devil true body. Just by relying on this absolute art, Ancestor Devil was able to prevent the Lake Heart Island Master from dealing with him. He even used it to create the ancient demon. Only by mastering all 6 great inheritances, such as the Blood Demon Scripture, would one of the foundations for mastering the myriad devil true body. Dongbua Shueing had suffered so much. Even when his cultivation heart reached the 2nd level, he was only able to master the beginner scroll. From this, one could see how terrifying this absolute art was. It was definitely the strongest absolute art in the history of the deity world and dark abyss in regards to the body. Even with just 50% of his strength, he was already able to completely suppress this Fei Hua Empyrean. Pure strength and speed are useless. Realm is more important. Fei Hua Empyrean was infuriated. The injuries on his body instantly recovered. At the same time, he extended both his hands, causing countless red flames to form rapidly. They formed a huge array in midair and enveloped Dongbua Shueing. Dongbua Shueing drew his sword. This opponent in front of him wasn't worthy of him using a spear. A sword was enough. Hua! A blood-colored sword light that was like a thread instantly sliced through the countless red flames and slashed towards Fei Hua Empyrean. This sword was extremely fast. In fact, Fei Hua Empyrean had a strange feeling that he wouldn't be able to dodge it. What's going on? I'm a paragon. Why can't I dodge his sword art? Why can't I see through the profoundness of his sword art? Fei Hua Empyrean felt a little flustered in his heart. A black wooden staff appeared in his hand as he used it to block that sword light. Boom! Although he managed to block it, the Tao of slaughter contained within the sword light still caused Fei Hua Empyrean to fly backwards as he coughed out another mouthful of blood. Severing sword. Dongbua Shueing smiled. He was very satisfied with the might of the severing sword. Fei Hua Empyrean stood in the air from afar. He felt some disbelief and was unable to accept this. My strength and speed are inferior to my opponent. Why is his sword art so profound that I can't break it? Wah! Dongbua Shueing didn't stop. Another sword descended from afar. It was very hard to find a paragon expert. It was very suitable for him to test his understanding of the 6 sword styles of severing sword. This time around, he intentionally lowered his strength to prevent his opponent from being sent flying. In midair, streams of sword light that resembled blood threads could be seen. These sword lights were unrestrained and extremely powerful. Fei Hua Empyrean was barely able to block 2 sword strikes. The 3rd sword slashed through his opponent's body, splitting him into 2. Flee. The 2 halves of Fei Hua Empyrean rapidly reconnected. At the same time, he no longer had the will to fight. He understood that he wasn't a match for this guest elder Fei Hua. Flee? When Dongbua Shueing saw that his opponent wanted to flee, he couldn't be bothered to waste any more time. The power contained in his sword was suddenly raised to 50%. The speed and strength of his sword technique naturally rose explosively. In terms of flying speed, Dongbua Shueing was also above his opponent. Under the whistling of the sword light, the fleeing Fei Hua Empyrean's body was sliced apart like tofu. After that, he was forcefully annihilated by the might of his sword art. Fei Hua Empyrean had died in battle. One of the 5 paragons who stood at the peak of this world, Fei Hua Empyrean, was killed by guest elder Fei Hua. Of course, the one who died was merely an avatar. Dongbua Shueing waved his hand and kept all the treasures left behind by his opponent. Who? Dongbua Shueing turned into a stream of light and returned to the Chung family. Within that courtyard, Cheng's forefather and the other 4 were looking at Dongbua Shueing with gazes filled with disbelief and passion. For instance, 7th Highness Cheng Yin was proud of his teacher. As for Chongshi forefather and the rest, they realized that the strength of this guest elder Feishua was so tyrannical that it was sufficient for him to establish a new holy ground. The world was about to change. And since this guest elder Feishua did not have any experts under him, his Cheng family might be able to become the core of this new holy ground. Chongshi Patriarch. Dongbua Shuiying looked at Chongshi forefather. Do you know what the ancient shrine is? I know. That is an ancient legend. Chongshi forefather was extremely obedient and answered whatever was asked. And at the same time, the news of Fei Hua Empyrean's death was immediately known by the Sky Fire Palace. The other two holy grounds, Spectre Prefecture and Su Empire, also knew about it. All of them were incomparably shocked, especially when Fei Hua Empyrean told them everything. They found it hard to believe. I was completely suppressed. I don't have any advantage in terms of cultivation realm, and the difference in strength and speed is too great. Because of my slow speed, I couldn't even escape. Fei Hua Empyrean had completely lost his confidence in this battle. He understood that the gap between them was extremely obvious. Chapter 702. The consequences of killing the avatar of Fei Hua Palace Master was something that Dongbua Shuiying could guess. However, he did not care about it. He was more concerned about the ancient shrine. Within the hall, Chongshi forefather dismissed his attendants and sat opposite to Dongbua Shuiying. He personally poured fruit wine for Dongbua Shuiying. Honored guest Feishua, there's an ancient legend about the ancient shrine. Very few people know of this legend, and I only came to know of it by chance. Ancient legend? Dongbua Shuiying looked at him, waiting for him to continue. The world has its birth and death, and each birth and death is an epic. Chongshi forefather said, according to the legend, a very, very long time ago, at the beginning of the many epics of this world, there were no living beings in this world. Suddenly, on a certain day, a group of humans descended into this world, and at the same time, an ancient shrine appeared as well. Dongbua Shuiying was slightly shocked when he heard that the earliest batch of humans were not born in this world, but suddenly descended. As I said, it's just a legend. Chongshi forefather explained, according to the legend, at the beginning of this world, a group of humans descended, and at the same time, that ancient shrine that descended contained many cultivation techniques and many absolute arts. According to the legend, almost all the absolute arts of our world originated from that ancient shrine. Oh, Dongbua Shuiying had a faint guess. He had always felt strange. In terms of strength, this world was far inferior to the deity world and abyss. There are not many paragons, and it was extremely difficult for a paragon to create an absolute art. Even if this world was born at the beginning of the cosmos, entering the 8th cosmos epic at the same time as the deity world and abyss, it was already not bad for those few paragons to create 2 or 3 absolute arts. How could there be so many? It seemed that the possibility of this legend was extremely high. The cultivation techniques and absolute arts were all left behind by a powerful senior cultivator, possibly Ancestor Devil. Ancestor Devil did not leave behind many absolute arts in the deity world and abyss. So why did he leave so many in this world? Dongbua Shuiying was also puzzled. Those absolute arts were originally taken away from the ancient shrine. Thus, there are no absolute arts left in the ancient shrine. Chongshi forefather said, thus, we are also suspicious of this legend. Other than that, there is another legend about the ancient shrine. It is said that as long as you can control the ancient shrine, you can become the strongest expert in this world and rule the entire world. Chongshi forefather sighed. Because of this legend, Paragon Emperor Su of the Su Empire directly built a nation at the region where the ancient shrine was located, occupying the ancient shrine for himself. Of course, if we ask, Sovereign Emperor Su will allow us to enter. However, the ancient shrine was indeed mysterious and frightening. As soon as I stepped through the door, I was forced to kneel on the ground by an invisible pressure. I had no choice but to crawl out. Chongshi forefather recalled and shook his head. It said that even Paragon Emperor Su and the others could not enter the ancient shrine. Oh, Dongbua Shui narrowed his eyes. Because Chongshi's forefather cultivated in an absolute art, his strength was not to be underestimated. Yet the moment he entered the ancient shrine, he was forced to kneel down. The ancient shrine was indeed mysterious. If I control the ancient shrine, I will become the strongest in this world and rule the entire world. Dongbua Shui thought. No matter what, the many absolute arts I was curious about previously seemed to originate from the ancient shrine. Like Fei Hua Palace Head and the others, they should have never seen a stage for a world deity opening their Tao. Seeing how strong I am, they immediately guessed that I have something to do with the ancient shrine. This ancient shrine is indeed not ordinary. It might be the final destination that the Ancestor Devil Star map led me to. Dongbua Shui thought. He had been in seclusion in this world for over 1,000 years. Over the past 1,000 years, the ancient shrine was his most probable destination. Amen? Dongbua Shui frowned. Patriarch, I'm going out for a walk. Chongshi's forefather was slightly startled. Why did he suddenly want to go out for a walk? Chongshi's forefather did not dare to refute. He smiled. I shall not disturb honored guest Fei Shua then. If honored guest has anything, feel free to instruct me. Amen. Dongbua Shui walked out. Currently, the sky was dark and night had descended. Dongbua Shui walked within the vast residence of the Chung family. Very soon, he arrived at the lakeside. There was a black-robed figure standing by the lakeside. This black-robed figure was completely wrapped in black, revealing only a pair of purple eyes. If I'm not wrong, you should be Spectre Prefecture Master. Dongbua Shui said. It's me. Honored guest Fei Shua is indeed amazing. I sneaked in and tried to sense you, but you discovered me. Spectre Prefecture Master said. Dongbua Shui sighed. Spectre Prefecture Master's sneaking technique is indeed amazing. If not for Prefecture Master sensing me, I would not have discovered you. There were 5 paragons in this world. According to the current intelligence, the strongest were Paragon Emperor Su and Golden Fire Palace Head. They both had the combat power of an apex paragon. As for the other 3, they were weaker by a level. Among them, Spectre Prefecture Master was slightly more special. He appeared and disappeared like a ghost, and he was the only one in this world who could teleport. According to this intelligence, Dongbua Shui understood that since the other party could teleport, he should have opened up his own world. It should be something similar to the Mirage World or Shadow World. Moreover, he had just killed Fei Hua Palace Head. According to this world's usual speed, it was normal for him to spend 8 to 10 years rushing over from Spectre Prefecture. However, the other party should have found out that he had killed Fei Hua Palace Head in the day and arrived here at night. Such a speed could only be achieved by teleportation. Haha, let's not flatter each other. Spectre Prefecture Master laughed. I'm here to invite honored guest Fei Shua to join my Spectre Prefecture. You and I will lead the entire Spectre Prefecture together. Our statuses will be the same. Honored guest Fei Shua can enjoy all the treasures in my Spectre Prefecture. Just like absolute arts, my Spectre Prefecture has accumulated a total of 8 absolute arts. When Dongbua Shui heard this, he sighed inwardly. A paragon was able to collect 8 absolute arts. In the deity world and abyss, a paragon would be happy to have 1 absolute art. Honored guest Fei Shua, what do you think? Spectre Prefecture Master said, you can fight head-on while I can hide in the darkness. If we work together, what can the Sky Fire Palace and Su Empire amount to? Let me think about it. Dongbua Shui laughed. No matter how Spectre Prefecture Master tried to persuade him, Dongbua Shui didn't agree. He was still whetting the other party's appetite. Spectre Prefecture Master could only leave temporarily. Honored guest Fei Shua, if you have made up your mind, you can contact me through Karma. All right, Dongbua Shui nodded. However, 3 days later, Dongbua Shui silently left the Chung family. He made use of the Mirage World to teleport continuously. In just an hour, he arrived at the distant Su Empire. In this world, other than Spectre Prefecture Master, There was only Shui who could travel at such a fast speed. Ancient shrine? Donghua Shui stood in midair and looked at a location in the distance. There was an ordinary-looking shrine in the distance. The entire shrine was made of ordinary stones. The shrine itself was slightly dilapidated. However, this shrine was emitting a terrifying pressure. The pressure within 5,000 kilometers of the shrine was extremely strong. The closer one got to the shrine, the stronger the pressure. Ordinary, powerful existences wouldn't even be able to enter the shrine before being suppressed. Donghua Shui muttered. The pressure around the ancient shrine was too strong. That was why no life form dared to live here. Even Paragon Emperor Su wouldn't live here. Who would be willing to suffer from the constant suppression? Xiao, borrowing the power of the Mirage World, he teleported. Donghua Shui arrived at the entrance of the ancient shrine. Although the pressure was strong, to Donghua Shui, who had cultivated the initial scroll of the myriad devil true body, it was like a gentle breeze. It is indeed mysterious. Donghua Shui frowned as he looked at the shrine in front of him. Using the Mirage World, he could only teleport to this place. As for the interior of the shrine, formless ripples permeated the air. These ripples not only filled the normal space, but also entered the Mirage World and other regions. This caused Donghua Shui to have no choice but to enter. It can suppress the Mirage World. Donghua Shui was very clear that even his master, Bloodblade, and the others would not be able to suppress the Mirage World just by relying on arrays. The existence who created this shrine is definitely stronger than the ruler. Donghua Shui took a step forward and entered the shrine. As he crossed the door, the pressure grew even stronger. Chapter 703. The shrine was very simple, and even the materials used to construct the shrine were ordinary stones. But after stepping through the doorstep of the deity palace, the suppressive might reached a whole new level. Shui swept his gaze across the hall. The hall in front of him was about 5 kilometers wide. There was a passage paved with green rocks leading from the doorstep all the way to the end of the hall, where there was a stone door. According to the legends of this world, the ancient shrine had descended many epochs ago. From the looks of it, just the pressure alone is already so terrifying. It is indeed able to withstand the great apocalypse. Donghua Shui thought. Places like the Sixth Heavenly Wheel, Lake Heart Island Historical Remnant, and Starting Ground were all able to withstand a great apocalypse. Even the 3 chieftains' sacred mountain formed from the corpse of the ancient demon could withstand it. From this, one could see how strong the corpse of the ancient demon was. Donghua Shui walked over step by step. Because the pressure at the door was enough to make experts at the level of Chongshi forefather kneel, there was no one guarding the ancient shrine. Only the outermost layer was guarded by arrays. Paragon Emperor Su was very confident. He felt that other than Spectre Prefecture Master, who could stealthily enter, any other paragon would be discovered the moment they touched the arrays. However, Donghua Shui similarly stealthily entered. The green-colored stone path was only 5 kilometers long. Donghua Shui walked at a slower pace, but he still reached the end in a few breaths of time. I'm afraid that even ordinary supremacies would be crushed by the pressure here. Donghua Shui felt the pressure on his body. If I didn't cultivate the myriad devil true body, it would be tough for me to even stand straight. But now it's still so easy. This stone door. Donghua Shui looked at the stone door in front of him. The stone door was a single entity and was a sluice gate. Only by lifting the stone door up could one enter. Amen? Donghua Shui determined the type of exit. He still released his soul to inspect the stone door. It is indeed a sluice gate. It is the most ordinary mechanism, and as long as I lift it up, I can open the door. But must I lift it up? Donghua Shui reached out his hand and touched the gap at the edge of the stone door. He wanted to turn into mist and pass through it, but when he tried to pass through the gap, he felt an invisible resistance. Who? The mist condensed into Donghua Shui. I really can't slack off. Left with no choice, Donghua Shui reached out with both hands and grabbed onto the bottom gap of the stone door. The stone door trembled slightly. Eh. Donghua Shui Ying was slightly shocked. Ever since he cultivated the initial scroll of the Thousand Demon True Body, he felt that his strength was ridiculously strong. Only the protectors from the ancestor mother religion that specialized in body cultivation from another cosmos could be stronger than him. Furthermore, they were the apex protectors. In the cultivator cosmos, his strength was already ridiculously high. Perhaps only the ascetic and a few others who had learned the myriad devil true body could compete with him in strength. Even after releasing 50% of his strength, he still couldn't lift it up. 70%. Donghua Shui Ying's strength was rising. 80%. 90%. Donghua Shui Ying's arms were vaguely becoming thicker. Finally, the stone door started rising slowly. The terrifying aura from Donghua Shui Ying's body surged out in all directions, blasting against the distant palace walls, causing the surrounding stone walls to rumble. Even though the impact of his aura was huge, it could not damage this ancient shrine at all. But because of the suppression in this place, even a mirage world was suppressed. Donghua Shui Ying could not conceal the commotion caused by his aura striking against the palace walls. I should be exposed soon. Donghua Shui Ying frowned. He could no longer care about that. He was using all his strength to lift this stone door. As the stone door was rising, unseen spatial ripples appeared beneath it. Donghua Shui Ying knew that it was this spatial ripple that obstructed him from tunneling through previously when he turned into mist. Even though this spatial ripple seemed ordinary, he could not tunnel through it even with his full strength. Rise. Donghua Shui Ying used both his arms to lift the stone door. At the same time, his body started expanding, lifting the stone door higher and higher. There were two paragons in the Su Empire. The two of them were teacher and disciple. Paragon Emperor Su's status was the highest. He was the first paragon of this epoch. His current strength was also unfathomable. His understanding towards the ancient shrine was much deeper than Chengshi forefather. He was clear that the legends were true. Thus, he desired to possess the ancient shrine even more. But what made Paragon Emperor Su feel helpless was that he could not even lift that stone door. After entering the shrine, I have to walk step by step to the stone door and lift it up. Only then would I be able to see the legendary flight of stairs. And at the top of the flight of stairs is the ultimate of everything, the Black Gourd. Standing on a balcony in his palace, Paragon Emperor Su looked at the ancient shrine within the boundaries of his palace. His eyes were filled with desire. As long as I can obtain this Black Gourd, I will be able to obtain the ultimate power. I will then be able to truly leave this world and enter the vast cosmos outside. It had come to this point. He was clear that this vast world they lived in was merely a small hidden corner of the cosmos. But our epic is too weak. Currently, there isn't even a single person who can lift the stone door, much less step on the flight of stairs. Paragon Emperor Su shook his head inwardly. Hong long long. Rumbling sounds came from the distant ancient shrine. Paragon Emperor Su's senses were extremely sharp. The ripples from the void made him notice it in advance. This caused his expression to change. What's going on? What happened to the ancient shrine? South. He turned into a stream of light and quickly flew to the entrance of the ancient shrine that was tens of thousands of miles away. After all, his residence was very close. Paragon Emperor Su looked at the scene in astonishment. He saw a black-robed teen with a divine sword on his back turn into a giant. He was using both hands to lift the stone door, causing it to rumble. The black-robed teen's powerful body emitted an aura that was like a shockwave that struck the entire hall, causing it to rumble continuously. Paragon Emperor Su's pupils constricted. From the aura emitted by the other party, he knew how strong his body was. It was simply unimaginable. Moreover, lift the stone door? Paragon Emperor Su was incomparably shocked. Up till now, no one in this epoch had been able to lift the stone door. It was simply too heavy. He is a guest retainer of Fei Xue. Paragon Emperor Su had long obtained information regarding guest retainers of Fei Xue and immediately recognized him. When Dongbua Shui Ying lifted the stone door, it was also raised above his head. His eyes could see through the spatial ripples in front of him to see the scene behind the stone door. Behind the stone door was an even more majestic hall. In the center of the hall, there were stone steps that continuously led upwards. At the very top, there was a black gourd. The black gourd was only 30 centimeters tall. At this moment, the black gourd was faintly glowing with a dark red color. Waves of terrifying heat surged out in all directions with it as the center. As the heat surged, it caused the void to distort. As the blazing heat surged, white fog could be seen in the distance. The entire gray hall was filled with white fog. Only the area near the black gourd was filled with the distorted void. Dongbua Shui Ying wasn't attacked by the spatial ripples. However, just looking at the black gourd caused Dongbua Shui Ying to feel fear from the bottom of his heart. The fear grew uncontrollably. This was the difference in levels. What is this thing? Dongbua Shui Ying understood that this was definitely the most terrifying item he had ever seen. Although he saw the black gourd, Dongbua Shui Ying was constantly on guard. When Paragon Emperor Su turned into a stream of light and arrived at the entrance of the ancient shrine, he naturally felt the ripples. He couldn't help but turn his head to take a look. There was indeed a silver-haired elder standing at the entrance. At this moment, the silver-haired elder had a look of astonishment on his face. Boom! Dongbua Shui Ying finally raised the stone door completely. After raising it to the highest point, the stone door was stuck. At the same time, the spatial ripples naturally dissipated. Who? Within the vast hall, white fog surged out, causing Dongbua Shui Ying's body to stagger slightly. The surrounding temperature rose rapidly, instantly reaching a temperature comparable to the surface of the sun. Chapter 704. Dongbua Shui Ying glanced at the silver-haired old man behind him before walking towards the vast hall. Honored guest Fei Xue? Paragon Emperor Su chuckled. I have long heard of honored guest Fei Xue's name. I never expected honored guest Fei Xue to be able to enter the ancient shrine without anyone noticing and even lift the stone door. I am truly impressed. Previously, Paragon Emperor Su was filled with confidence. However, when he saw the scene of Dongbua Shui Ying lifting the stone door, he felt his heart skip a beat. He understood. This mysterious stage 4-world deity, honored guest Fei Xue, at least in terms of strength, surpassed him, Paragon Emperor Su. Honored guest Fei Xue's strength is so impressive. I wonder where did he get it from? Did he have a fortuitous encounter, or did honored guest Fei Xue come from the external universe? Paragon Emperor Su asked. The external universe. Dongbua Shui Ying turned his head and glanced at Paragon Emperor Su. Outside this world, they're the universe. Paragon Emperor Su was puzzled, because for a stage 4-world deity to have such power, it was too abnormal. Therefore, he thought of the legendary universe outside this world. However, this honored guest Fei Xue didn't seem to know about the universe. Did he really not know, or was he pretending? Who? As Dongbua Shui Ying spoke, he continued to walk forward. Very soon, he reached the bottom of the staircase. Although the blazing white air current was charging at the surface of his body, the layer of black armor condensed on the surface of his body was able to withstand the heat easily. Honored guest Fei Xue, that staircase isn't so easy to climb. Paragon Emperor Su said from afar. At the same time, he took a step forward and turned into a stream of light as he charged into the vast hall. As a top-notch paragon who had cultivated numerous absolute arts, it was still possible for him to withstand the pressure. After entering the hall, he watched as Dongbua Shui Ying climbed the staircase. He didn't obstruct him at all. Dongbua Shui Ying raised his head and looked at the black gourd at the top of the staircase. It was placed at the highest point of the inner palace, the core of the palace. Just the aura that this black gourd emitted was already so strong. It was much more terrifying than any treasure I've ever seen. Even sovereigns can't unleash their auras at this level. Such a precious treasure. Regardless of the purpose of the ancient star map leading me here, As long as I can obtain this treasure, it will be worth it. Dongbo Shui could also tell that the value of this black gourd far surpassed all the treasures he had obtained before. In fact, it might even be more valuable than the legendary temporal temple of the Temporal Island Lord. After all, he had cultivated the myriad devil true body and possessed the combat power of a peak paragon. Given his current level of strength, he could even hold his own against a hegemon. However, this black gourd caused him to involuntarily feel fear. Clearly, it was a treasure that far surpassed his level. Boom! Dongbo Shui stepped on the first step. When he stepped on it, it was as though he was stepping on his own soul, causing his entire soul to tremble. Dongbo Shui, who had never expected his soul to suffer such an impact, couldn't help but sway. Heart like a blade. Dongbo Shui Ying's heart cultivation had already reached the second level. He was able to adapt very quickly as he took the second step, stepping onto the second step. Boom! The instant he stepped on it, his soul also suffered a terrifying impact. This impact was even stronger than before. However, this time around, his heart was prepared, and he was able to adapt quickly. Seems like it won't be easy to obtain this black gourd. Dongbo Shui raised his head and looked at the highest point of the staircase. The entire staircase seemed to be emitting formless ripples. Dongbo Shui faintly understood that he had to walk up the staircase step by step. If he tried to forcefully stretch his arm out to grab the black gourd or fly up, he would definitely suffer an even more terrifying punishment. The ripples contained within the staircase far surpassed his own, causing Dongbo Shui to be extremely obedient. Since this staircase was left behind intentionally by a senior, he had to follow the rules set by the senior. If he were to break the rules, the consequences might not be something he could accept. Master! A voice rang out. Swish! A figure darted into the ancient shrine. It was a silver-haired, handsome young man. He swiftly arrived beside Paragon Emperor Su, but his body was clearly trembling slightly. Just entering the inner hall of the ancient shrine had already required him to use all his strength. Dongbo Shui glanced into the distance. This silver-haired, handsome young man was the other paragon of the Su Empire, Paragon Kenwang. He had a domineering reputation, but his strength was a level lower than Paragon Emperor Su. He could be considered an ordinary paragon. Is a guest elder of the Feishu Empire? Paragon Kenwang looked at the black-robed young man with slight shock. Amen. Paragon Emperor Su raised his head and nodded. He is very powerful. He lifted the stone door and stepped on the staircase. I thought he would fall the moment he stepped on the staircase. Who would have thought that he would reach the second step? Lifted the stone door? Even Master and Golden Fire Palace Master were unable to lift the stone door, but he was able to? Paragon Kenwang didn't dare to believe it. If he wasn't the one who lifted the stone door, then who was it? Paragon Emperor Su said indifferently. And in the distance, Dongbo Shui was slowly ascending the staircase, step by step. With every step, he would have to slow down and endure the soul shock. He is already halfway up the staircase and is still ascending. Paragon Kenwang's expression changed. Master, didn't you say that even though lifting the stone door is hard, the staircase is even harder? He shouldn't be able to reach the end. Paragon Emperor Su said softly. Moreover, he will soon be affected by the black gourd's void shock. Indeed, the black gourd was emitting a terrifying might. The space around it was distorted, while the outer layer was filled with white fog. As Dongbo Shui ascended the staircase step by step, he got closer and closer. Finally, he started to touch the distorted space. Hong, the terrifying might smashed against his body. Dongbo Shui, who was already mentally prepared, felt as though his legs were rooted to the ground as he forcefully resisted. This powerful force smashed against the surface of his body, bringing with it an even higher temperature. Furthermore, as he ascended the staircase, he suffered an even stronger soul shock. However, with the weakening of the extreme annihilation mysterious body and the strength of the myriad devil true body, Dongbo Shui was still able to resist this vile environment. The closer I get to the black gourd, the the greater the threat. I'm afraid even peak paragons wouldn't be able to get close to it. Dongbu Shui Ying was speechless. This might was too terrifying. It was already like an existence in the legends. He took another step. Dongbu Shui Ying continued advancing. Paragon Emperor Su had been watching. When he saw that Dongbu Shui Ying was still able to stand stably after suffering the impact of the distorted space, his expression changed. If this continued, he would reach the end. At that time, he would be able to take away the Black Gourd. Could it be like the legends? Could it be that by controlling the Black Gourd, one would be able to rule the entire world and even leave this world to enter the vast universe? We must not let him obtain it. Paragon Emperor Su waved his hand. Who? Large amounts of white silk threads flew out from his hand and swept towards Dongbu Shui Ying at an extremely fast speed. Amen. Dongbu Shui Ying, who was standing on the staircase, had a slight change in expression as he looked at the incoming white silk threads. Break! He instantly drew his sword and slashed, forming a vortex. The vortex tore apart countless white silk threads. Countless white silk threads tangled with the vortex, affecting the divine sword. Dongbu Shui Ying stood there and didn't dare to move forward, because against the attack of a peak paragon, he didn't have the confidence to stand stably on the staircase. He would definitely fall down. Boundless world. Paragon Emperor Su's eyes flashed with silver light. Hua hua hua. Countless white silk threads suddenly transformed into a black hole. The inside of the black hole was pitch black, producing a heaven-shaking suction force that acted on Dongbu Shui Ying's body. Currently, Dongbu Shui Ying was constantly defending against the void impact from the Black Gourd. Now that he was suddenly affected by the suction force, he was no longer able to stand stably. He was swallowed by the suction force and fell down the staircase. Just as he was out of the staircase, Dongbu Shui Ying immediately turned around and slashed furiously with his sword. A dazzling sword light wreaked havoc in the sky and slashed onto the distant black hole. The black hole trembled but didn't dissipate. However, the suction force was greatly reduced. Dongbu Shui Ying landed on the ground of the hall. He raised his head and looked at the black gourd at the top of the staircase. He then looked at the cold paragon Emperor Su. You want to obstruct me? You aren't worthy of this black gourd. Paragon Emperor Su said coldly. He had occupied this place for a very long time. This black gourd should be his. No one should even think about snatching it away. It seems like I have to chase you out first. Dongbu Shui Ying's eyes flashed with coldness. Chapter 705. Disciple, let's work together to tie him down. We absolutely cannot let him obtain the Black Gourd. Paragon Emperor Su stared at the distant Dongbu Shui Ying. His eyes were cold. In the legends, whoever obtained the Black Gourd would be able to rule the entire world. They could even leave and enter the vast cosmos. Regardless of the reason, he would not allow any other expert to obtain it. Yes, Master. Paragon Qinhuang also unsheathed the sword in his hand. Letting your disciple stay behind is the same as sending him to his death. Dongbu Shui Ying wielded his divine sword and walked forward step by step. Each step created afterimages as the distance between them rapidly shortened. With just you, Paragon Qinhuang was clearly confident. He knew that Dongbu Shui Ying had killed Fei Hua Palace head of the Sky Fire Palace in just a few moves. However, he believed that he was more proficient in survival. In a one-on-one battle, it shouldn't be a problem for him to withstand 7 to 8 moves from guest Elder Fei Xue. Now, with his master by his side, his survival was even more assured. Boom! Dongbu Shui Ying suddenly waved his sword. Kill! Paragon Emperor Su's silver hair danced in the air. Countless white silk strands danced with his body at the center, forming many layers of maelstrom. Those layers of maelstrom seemed to lead to another world, and these maelstrom enveloped Shui Ying. Paragon Qinhuang was much more dazzling. Together with his sword, he turned into a dazzling golden light and charged at Dongbu Shui Ying. Because the power of the white mist within the ancient shrine was too great, the lightning and fire of the laws of heaven and earth were unable to form. However, Donghua Shuiying's speed was actually slower because the restrictions within the ancient shrine were much stronger than the outside world. Myriad Devil True Body, 100%. At this moment, Donghua Shuiying's heart was on the blackboard. He didn't have the mood to waste too much time. Earlier, when he lifted the stone door, he had exposed his strength. Boom! Boom! With the extreme speed of Donghua Shuiying's Myriad Devil True Body, he swung his sword twice in a row. The first strike landed on the dazzling golden sword light, instantly dispersing the golden sword light. Ken Huang, who was inside the sword light, revealed a look of terror. Following that, his body completely exploded. The second strike also landed on the layers of whirlpools. The twisting forces in the whirlpools kept weakening the power. However, the power contained in Donghua Shuiying's divine sword was too strong. Emperor Su was forced to step back to defend himself. While he was defending himself, he was shaken by the strong impact and was sent flying out of the ancient celestial palace. Supremacy Emperor Su retreated over 150 miles before standing in the air. He looked at the black-robed youth in disbelief. How could this be? Just 2 sword strikes. Paragon Qinhuang died, and Paragon Emperor Su was forced back. Donghua Shuiying looked at the weapons and other treasures of Paragon Qinhuang. Actually, Paragon Qinhuang had died quite unjustly. If not for him being in the ancient celestial palace, he would have been able to reform his body even if his body was destroyed. However, the entrance of the outer hall of the ancient celestial palace could force Chongshi's forefather to kneel, and the pressure from the inner hall was practically the limit of Paragon Qinhuang. When he was in perfect condition, there was naturally no problem. But the moment his body was destroyed, the resistance of his shattered body would be much weaker. Under the pressure from the inner hall, not even Paragon Emperor Su could save him in time. He actually dared to clash head-on with me. Donghua Shuiying shook his head and muttered. In the end, his body was destroyed, and he was even killed by the pressure from the inner hall. How could he know? Although Paragon Qinhuang knew that the strength needed to raise the stone door was huge, he did not know exactly how much strength was required. Furthermore, when Donghua Shuiying fought with Fei Hua Palace Master previously, he did not use pure strength to blast the other party apart. He merely sent him flying. In addition, he was confident in his sword techniques, which was why he naturally cooperated with his teacher. Who would have thought that he was so wrong? When Donghua Shuiying fought with Fei Hua Palace Master, he could only display 50% of his strength. But this time, he was using all his strength. This stone door. Donghua Shuiying walked to the place where he raised the stone door. He raised his head and frowned. The stone door is stuck after being raised, but can't be lowered anymore. If he could lower the stone door, he would be able to obtain the black gourd in peace. After obtaining the black gourd, he could just raise it again. But in reality, even if he raised the stone door, he had no way of making it lower. World deity Fei Xue. The distant Paragon Emperor Su roared furiously. The stone door can't be lowered. It seems like I can only kill you so that you won't disturb me. Donghua Shuiying transformed into a stream of light and rushed out. Although Paragon Emperor Su and Paragon Qinhuang still had their avatars, they would be spread far apart to prevent the enemy from killing them all in one fell swoop. Therefore, as long as he killed Paragon Emperor Su, no one would be able to disturb him for a short period of time. Even if the Spectre Prefecture Master used his karmic senses to determine his location, it would still take him quite some time to rush over. Boom! Outside the ancient shrine, Donghua Shuiying and Paragon Emperor Su clashed again. What happened? What happened? Why is there such a huge commotion? The entire Su Empire was in an uproar. They could clearly see the commotion in the direction of the royal palace. Many figures flew out in fright as they looked in the direction of the ancient shrine with fear and unease. In the direction of the ancient shrine, there were 2 terrifying existences fighting. Fortunately, their power was suppressed by the laws of the world and the ancient shrine. Thus, the shockwaves were greatly weakened. Even so, the weakened shockwaves continued to clash with the royal palace's array. Paragon Emperor Su, you want to escape? Do you think you can escape? A cold voice rang out. I won't stop you, I won't stop you. Paragon Emperor Su was slightly flustered as he escaped into his own palace. He wanted to use the array to defend. Boom, boom, boom. Just 12 consecutive violent sword lights tore the array apart. Dongbua Ying transformed into a dazzling stream of lightning and fire as he chased after the escaping Paragon Emperor Su. Paragon Emperor Su was in a sorry and regretful state. He is actually so strong. The absolute art of the Tao of Slaughter, 6 sever sword styles, complemented Dongbua Ying's Tao of Slaughter, allowed his sword techniques to be extremely powerful in terms of offense and slaughter. If it was just this, Paragon Emperor Su wouldn't be afraid and would still have the upper hand. However, the myriad Devil True body had a suppressive power, causing Paragon Emperor Su to be completely suppressed. In the God Realm and the Abyssal Abyss, if one was simply suppressed, one might be skilled in space-time or in the Infinity Realm, and they might even be able to escape with their lives. But in this world, the laws of the world were too powerful. Their flying speed was also very slow, making it much harder to escape. Qi Dongbua Ying had the absolute advantage in speed. After catching up to his opponent, he unleashed his sword of slaughter to his heart's content. With terrifying strength and speed combined with the profound profundities of his sword techniques, the power he could unleash was naturally incredible. That Protector Huizhu might be stronger than Dongbua Ying, but in terms of cultivation realm, he was much weaker. If they fought again, the situation would be completely different. I don't even dare to stop you. So why are you chasing me so relentlessly? Guest Elder Feishue, I acknowledge your strength and position. From now on, we don't need to be enemies. Paragon Emperor Su continued to persuade. The main reason was because he was too confident in the past. Although his clone was far away, his main body, which was usually in the Su Empire, carried his most important weapons and treasures. In his opinion, in this world, who could kill him? It was already very prudent for him to hide his clone in a faraway place. Why didn't you stop just now? Now that you know you can't win, you are begging for mercy? Shui Ying's hands did not stop moving. Even though the other party's defenses were amazing, his frightening strength allowed him to injure Paragon Emperor Su with every sword. Furthermore, I don't need you to acknowledge my strength and status. Boom, boom, boom. Every single sword light engulfed Paragon Emperor Su. After the time it took to brew half a cup of tea, Paragon Emperor Su's body finally collapsed. His life force was exhausted and he was quickly destroyed. Paragon Emperor Su was dead. Quick, Spectre Prefecture Master, bring the 4 of us to the ancient shrine to stop world deity Feishue. He has already killed my disciple. I'm afraid I won't be able to hold on for long. He will soon retrieve the ancient shrine's black gourd. We must think of a way to retrieve it and not let him snatch it away. Paragon Emperor Su was still asking for help while fighting against Dongbua Ying. The Lord of Spectre Prefecture and the 2 Palace Masters of Sky, Fire Palace were shocked. A paragon of the Su Empire had died in battle. Even the oldest Paragon Emperor, Su, couldn't hold on for long. This guest Elder Feishue was too terrifying. Retrieve the ancient shrine's black gourd? That was a legendary item. At this moment, the 3 of them had their own thoughts. However, Spectre Prefecture Master still agreed to bring the 4 of them to the ancient shrine. Chapter 706. Dongbua Ying looked around. The entire Su Empire was in a state of chaos. Even though the shock waves from the battle in the sky were weakened by the laws and the capital's arrays, the countless cultivators in the capital saw with their own eyes that the invincible Paragon Emperor Su was killed by a black-robed young man wielding a sword. The 5 of them are quite far from here. Dongbua Ying relied on karma to sense that the 5 paragons were more than 3 trillion kilometers away from here. With their speed, no one would be able to disturb him for the time being. South Dongbua Ying turned into a stream of light and flew into the ancient shrine. Very soon, he entered the inner hall. Raising his head to look at the highest point of the stairs, the black gourd was still faintly glowing in red. The ripples it emitted caused the surrounding void to distort, and there was even white fog rolling around it. Such power should have lasted for a few epochs. There are no more paragons around. Even though there are still powerful existences in the Su Empire, they probably wouldn't be able to stand up straight in the inner hall. Dongbua Shui Ying was very sure that since even Chongshi's forefather could only kneel at the entrance of the outer hall, there was a limit to the powerful existences in the Su Empire. Dongbua Shui Ying let out a long breath. He allowed his true deity heart to regain its calm and made preparations for climbing the stairs. Previously, the stairs were destroyed, but even if it wasn't, could he reach the end of the stairs? Even if he reached the end, could he pick up the Black Gourd? He had no confidence. He sensed that the Spectre Prefecture Master of the Five Venerables was teleporting at high speed towards the Sky Fire Palace. He did not rush towards the Su Empire. They know that they are not strong enough, so they are preparing to team up. Dongbua Shui Ying chuckled, not treating them as a threat. He took a step. Dong! When his left foot stepped on the stairs, it was as though he was stepping on his soul, causing his true deity heart to ring. However, the experienced Dongbua Shui Ying remained unmoved. After calming his true deity heart, he took the second step. Step by step, he kept climbing upwards. Indeed, no almighties dared to come and destroy it. Not even one person dared to enter the shrine because the deaths of the Su Empire's two venerables were too great of a deterrence. As he climbed higher and higher up the stairs, he got closer and closer to the Black Gourd. The distorted void ripples struck against his body, and the temperature grew hotter and hotter. The soul shock waves also grew stronger, but Dongbua Shui Ying still gritted his teeth and continued climbing. Gradually, Dongbua Shui Ying felt as though everything around him was rumbling. He knew that, in reality, the surroundings were relatively quiet. It was his own soul that was roaring. It was incomparably hot. Explosions rang out incessantly. Dongbua Shui Ying began to sway as he walked, but he gritted his teeth and held on. His will was like a blade. His will flowed through his entire true deity heart. Even though he was swaying, he continued to move forward. Every time he stopped for a while, he would take a step forward. Finally, he reached the spot closest to the Black Gourd. Suddenly, the dark red color on the surface of the Black Gourd suddenly disappeared, and so did the terrifying heat and energy waves. Following that, the gourd flew into Dongbua Shui Ying's arms. Dongbua Shui Ying hugged the Black Gourd a daze. I got it just like that. He had thought of many difficulties. He was worried that the Black Gourd was too hot, and that he would have to take it away through the void. He was worried that there would be an even more terrifying shockwave. In reality, the moment he walked in front of it, it flew into his arms. This Black Gourd. Dongbua Shui Ying hugged the Black Gourd, and a strand of his luminous sun force tried to seep into it. But the moment his luminous sun force entered, it came into contact with the terrifying heat and was instantly incinerated into nothingness. Brat, this Black Gourd isn't something you can control. A slightly sharp voice rang out. Although the voice was rather loud, it was very pleasant to listen to. It was like a beautiful melody. At the same time, a blurry figure appeared in the air in front of Dongbua Shui Ying. Dongbua Shui Ying hugged the gourd and looked at the figure in front of him with some surprise. This was a life form with a very unique appearance and attire, and it gave Dongbua Shui Ying a very unique feeling. He was in a human form, and his robes were like his skin, sticking to every part of his body. His robes were mainly silver and gold. The skin on his face was green, and his hands were also green. His hair was silvery white, and it was tied into small braids. His eyebrows were also silvery white, and they were like two swords. There were 3 golden horns on his head, and his eyes were also golden. Obviously, this was an appearance that Dongbua Shui Ying had never seen before. It was fine if it was just the appearance. After all, what other races did they not have? However, this figure gave Dongbua Shui Ying a very unique feeling. Even though it was just a figure, it still emitted an aura. This aura was different from any other aura he had felt in the past. It wasn't a common pressure, nor was it like Monarch Green's aura that made people submit to him, nor was it like Pang Yi's aura that made people feel close. Instead, it was a type of nothingness. It was as though he was a member of the void of the world, vast and boundless. It was like the sky, but also felt even higher and more vast than the sky. The fireball within this black gourd, in terms of strength, is on the same level as the sun star of your cosmos. You can think of it as the sun, star hidden within this gourd. The silver-haired, golden-horned man grinned. You foolishly try to control it? Even the hegemons among you wouldn't be able to do so. Dongbo Shuiying was stunned. What? The black gourd had emitted a terrifying temperature earlier, but the fireball within it was on the same level as the sun star. What was a sun star? Every epoch had its own sun star and moon star. They were the core of the cosmos, and if a hegemon dared to enter, he or she would instantly die. In terms of strength, the sun star and moon star far surpassed the hegemons. Dongbo Shuiying hugged the black gourd in front of him and lowered his head to take a look. He didn't dare believe that a terrifying existence comparable to the sun star was hidden within. You can't even control it, much less refine it. The silver-haired, golden-horned man said. Dongbo Shuiying listened obediently. So what if his master had been to the other two cosmos? He had actually met a terrifying existence that placed an existence similar to the sun star within the black gourd. I was forced to leave my hometown and wandered the cosmos, passing through many cosmos. The silver-haired, golden-horned man laughed. Suddenly, one day, I realized that I didn't even have a single disciple. Therefore, I decided to accept apprentices. I spent a lot of effort to craft 6 gourds and threw them in 6 different universes. I set up many tests in each of them, and only those who passed the test could become my apprentices and become one of the Void Walkers. Void Walker? Dongbo Shuiying's heart was filled with doubt. The Void Walker is a very unique cultivation system. It is different from the cultivation system of your cosmos. Naturally, you can cultivate both. The Void Walker lineage is extremely difficult to cultivate. Thus, I set up many tests. The Void Walker lineage is extremely rare. Thus, I left behind 6 gourds. These 6 gourd will also be your Dao Protector treasures. I hope that they will be able to protect you when you are still weak. The silver-haired, golden-horned man shook his head. However, I reckon that even one of my 6 disciples would be able to reach my level. Don't be anxious. You are not my disciple yet. In the 5th epoch of your cosmos, I came to your cosmos. I discovered that this cosmos was created by that old fogey Tianyu. Furthermore, this cosmos even gave birth to a very monstrous cultivator. He was actually able to barge into the starting ground left behind by that old fogey Tianyu. It seems like the cultivators of your cosmos have quite a bit of potential. That's why you left behind an inheritance here. I placed a star map in the 6 paths Tianluan created by that ancestor devil. Only those who are able to pass his 3 devil halls test and are young enough would be able to obtain that star map. I placed a total of 12 star maps in there. The silver-haired, golden-horned man said. Only those who obtained the star map would be allowed to enter this world. Dongbo Shuiying was finally certain. Previously, he was puzzled. Be it the ancestor devil or the Lake Heart Island master, they did not leave behind many absolute arts in the deity world and abyss. Why were there so many absolute arts in this world? So it turned out that the star map was not left behind by the ancestor devil. It was placed into the ancestor devil's treasure vault by this Void Walker. One of the 6 gourds refined from it, the black gourd, was already this strong. But this Void Walker was actually forced to leave his hometown. He even knew the old ancestor of the starting ground, Ancestor Tianyu. Ancestor Tianyu was the creator of this cosmos. With so many secrets, Dongbo Shuiying was a little dazed. Obtaining the black gourd is merely the first trial. The silver-haired, golden-horned man smiled. I will now impart a technique to you. By relying on this technique, you will be able to control the black gourd. You need to master this technique within 5 years. This can be considered the 2nd trial. As for the 3rd trial, it is for you to think of a way. Remember, think of a way yourself. You're not allowed to rely on anyone else to refine the black gourd within 1,000,000 years. Once you pass the third trial, you will naturally know the location of the inheritance and receive the inheritance. If you fail, the black gourd will return here and wait for the next brat with potential. I have left behind a total of 12 star maps. The silver-haired, golden-horned man smiled. At the same time, his figure transformed into countless runes which tunneled into Donghua Shui Ying's forehead. Chapter 707. Within his sea of consciousness, his true deity heart sat cross-legged as golden runes appeared in his sea of consciousness. The countless runes formed a complete cultivation technique. In terms of length, this cultivation technique could not compare to the vast amount of information contained in the luminous sun, extreme annihilation, mysterious body, 6 sword styles of severance, etc. It was merely a simple cultivation technique used to control the black gourd. However, when Donghua Shui Ying started to study it carefully, he could not help but read it slower and slower. This was because every rune contained many profound mysteries, and when they were combined together, there were many ways to decipher it. As he read, he finally finished the entire cultivation technique. However, Donghua Shui Ying was confused. So strange. Donghua Shui Ying was at a loss. In the past, it was extremely difficult to comprehend. However, this cultivation technique seemed to be very easy. Every rune contained many mysteries, and these mysteries were combined to form many different cultivation techniques. I comprehended 16 cultivation techniques after reading it once. Donghua Shui Ying hugged the black gourd in his embrace and tried to control it. 1. Runes formed from the luminous sun force started to condense in midair. These runes flowed into the black gourd, but it was like a clay ox entering the sea. There was no sound at all, as they were completely incinerated by the terrifying flames within the black gourd. This cultivation technique is wrong. Donghua Shui Ying was not surprised. He continued to try, and very soon, he had tried all 16 cultivation techniques. I say, that Void Walker gave me 5 years to cultivate this cultivation technique. If I could comprehend it after reading it once, wouldn't the Void Walker's test be too easy? Donghua Shui Ying shook his head. This was within his expectations. However, I did not expect this cultivation technique to be so strange. It seems like I can decipher it any way I want. After reading it once, I was able to decipher 16 cultivation techniques. If I did not use the black gourd to verify it, I would not be able to judge whether it was right or wrong. The ancient cultivation technique was right in front of him, but no matter how he comprehended it, it was wrong. 5 years. Donghua Shui Ying had already walked down the stairs. He turned back to look at the top of the stairs, and then at the black gourd in his embrace. He was still overwhelmed with emotions. Even though he had already comprehended the cultivation technique once, he was still shocked. The news that he knew was simply too unimaginable. This cosmos where the deity world and abyss was located was actually created by an ancient and powerful existence. He was the master of the starting ground, Forefather Tianyu. No wonder the talisman of the starting ground was so powerful. It could easily reach the starting ground from any place in this universe. It could also easily reach any place in the universe from the starting ground. As for the opportunity that he obtained, it came from an existence whose strength should be close to that of Forefather Tianyu, the mysterious Void Walker. Void Walkers referred to experts of a special cultivation system, and there were very few of them. Just how vast is this world? Just what level can one reach in cultivation? Donghua Shui Ying was filled with anticipation towards the possibility of obtaining the cultivation system of the Void Walkers. Up till now, he had only been cultivating the orthodox cultivation system. He had comprehended the profound laws of the universe and opened up his own path, while his body was developing an internal world. He had never trained in any of the other cultivation systems, and although he had tried to train in He Jimin Pang Yi's cultivation system, he hadn't been able to gain a basic understanding of it. It was obvious that the more special a technique was, the harder it was to learn it. The lineage of the Void Walkers was probably even harder to learn. At least for now, Donghua Shui Ying had passed the test. There were still 2 more rounds of selection. If he failed, the black gourd would naturally return to this world, and he would no longer have a chance. This stone door is actually stuck. It can't descend. Dongbua Shui Ying stood at the entrance of the ancient shrine's inner hall. He raised his head and looked at the stone door. At the same time, he sensed that the Spectre Prefecture Master had already gathered with the other 4 paragons. Paragon Emperor Su, Paragon Qin Wang, and Paragon Fei Hua had also cultivated their clones. They had long prepared the embryos and used the time acceleration to cultivate them. If I descend, no one will be able to disturb me when I cultivate in the inner hall. Dongbua Shuang frowned. There was actually no place in this world where he could cultivate in peace. If he was attacked by 5 paragons at every moment, how could he cultivate? Only his main body, which was far away in Crimson Rock Mountain, could cultivate peacefully. As for this clone, the effect of cultivating was almost negligible. This meant that he was only using 50% of his strength to go through the test. Of course it won't descend. A clear voice rang out. Dongbua Shuang started. A chubby child appeared on the black gourd in his bosom. The child was about the size of a palm. He sat on the black gourd and hugged the head of the gourd. The chubby child was only wearing a red undergarment that was as dazzling as a flame. The rest of his skin was exposed. You are? Dongbua Shuang looked at the child on the black gourd. Don't you know who I am? Of course, I'm the treasure spirit of your Tao protector treasure, the black gourd. The palm-sized child stood up on the black gourd. Do you think that I don't have a treasure spirit? Dongbua Shuang shook his head. Weapons and arrays that were slightly more powerful would be able to condense a spirit. However, this would depend on whether the owner was willing to keep the treasure spirit. If you pass the 3 tests without my treasure spirit, would you know where the inheritance ground is? The child sat down and grabbed his tender little feet. Without my treasure spirit, with just a control technique, would you be able to use this Tao protector treasure? Without special guidance, even a true god ruler wouldn't be able to control it. Of course, this black gourd of mine is only temporary. If you don't master the control technique within 5 years, or if you don't refine it within 1,000,000 years, I'll disappear instantly. You won't be able to find me because you won't be allowed to enter this world again. The child said, I understand. Dongbua Shuang nodded. This was a terrifying weapon that was comparable to the Sun Star. Of course, he had to give it his all. This stone door, not descending, is also a test for you. You have to obtain the black gourd despite the other paragon's attacks. Furthermore, you have to successfully master the technique within 5 years under the other paragon's attacks. The child continued, Don't worry. This world won't give birth to a ruler. Even if a ruler is born, he'll be forcefully expelled. At most, you'll be obstructed by the paragons. If you can't even deal with a few paragons, or even die in their hands, you won't be qualified to become a void walker. Understand, this is all part of the test. Dongbua Shuang smiled. Remember, I'll give you 5 years, and that will be the real 5 years. Even time acceleration is included in the test. You won't be able to use any tricks, the child reminded. Dongbua Shuang nodded. His expression was grim. After comprehending it once, he knew that it was a strange technique. It wouldn't be easy to master it. The child chuckled. I won't accompany you anymore. You deal with it yourself. With that, he disappeared without a trace. Dongbua Shuang looked at the black gourd in his robes. With a thought, the black gourd disappeared and was stored into his storage treasure. He then walked out of the ancient shrine. They'll be here soon. If I don't deal with them, I won't be able to cultivate in peace. Dongbua Shuang flew out of the ancient shrine. Paragon Emperor Su, Golden Fire Palace Master, Fei Hua Palace Master, Spectre Prefecture Master, and Paragon Qin Wang. These 5 paragons used to stand at the peak of the world. They had always been fighting with each other openly and secretly. This time, at least on the surface, they were working together. This was because the legendary black gourd might have fallen into the hands of world deity Fei Xue. We paragons couldn't get the black gourd. Could it be that a world deity got it? Don't worry. It won't be that easy to get the black gourd. With the help of Spectre Prefecture Master. They continued to teleport forward. Very soon, south, after teleporting for nearly 100 million kilometers, they arrived at the capital of the Sioux Empire. The five of them stood in the air and saw the most dazzling palace of the Sioux Empire. There was a black-robed young man standing there. He looked over and smiled. "You're all here, 5 of you, not one less." Chapter 708. Dong Shui Ying stood at the top of the palace. His robe fluttered in the wind, and he looked very relaxed. Seeing the attitude and confidence of this world deity, Flying Snow, it made the hearts of the 5 paragons who originally had their own thoughts tremble. They became even more uneasy. "Universe God Fei Xue, you got the Black Gourd?" Reverend Emperor Su asked. Fei Hua Palace Master, Golden Fire Palace Master, and the others looked at Dong Shuang. "Yes, I got it." "You're too late." Dong Shuang nodded and smiled. Swoosh. The master of the Spectre Prefecture, who was wrapped in a black robe and only revealed a pair of purple eyes, teleported to the doorway of the shrine of the ancient shrine in the distance. Then he quickly flew inside. Through the stone door that had been opened long ago, he could easily see the top of the flight of stairs in the shrine of the ancient shrine. The black gourd that should have been there had disappeared. Phew! The master of Spectre Prefecture quickly returned to his 4 companions after he teleported out of the ancient shrine. His 4 companions looked at him, and the master of Spectre Prefecture nodded, but his eyes were still on Dong Shuang. "The black gourd is really with Universe God Fei Xue." "What? He really got it?" They were shocked and nervous. Because since the birth of the world and the descent of the ancient shrine, the person who got the black gourd would be able to rule the entire world. He could even leave and enter the vast universe. The legend had been spreading. Over the years, there were people who lifted the stone door, but no one succeeded in getting the black gourd. Never in history. Then, the legend was broken. A mysterious universe god, Fei Xue, took the black gourd. What kind of power does the black gourd possess? Universe God Fei Xue's power has increased tremendously, right? The 5 of them had many thoughts in their heads. After all, according to the legend, the person who got the black gourd would be able to rule the entire world. How could he rule without power? They felt that the black gourd definitely possessed great power. Now that guest Fei Xue had such power, he might be able to rule the entire world. Universe God Fei Xue. The black-haired, Golden Fire Palatial Lord said, "I heard that obtaining the black gourd would allow one to leave this world and enter the vast universe outside. I wonder if it's true." "It's true." Dong Shuang nodded, not hiding anything. It was indeed true. If he failed the test, he would be expelled from this world and enter the vast universe of the God world and abyss. If he succeeded, he would be able to enter and exit this world even more easily. The outer universe? The Golden Fire Palace Master, Fei Hua Palace Master, and the others held their breaths. They had been living in this world for a long time and had a yearning for a vaster world. "Can you take me into that universe?" "If you want to bring me away, I won't stop you," said the Golden Fire Palace Master. "Can it bring us into the outer universe?" Spectre Prefecture Master asked. There were other supremacies who wanted to speak. "No." Dong Shui Ying shook his head. The reason why the answer was so straightforward was because the artifact spirit had sent him a voice transmission. You will be able to control the black gourd if you manage to master the technique within 5 years. You will be able to use the black gourd's power to leave this world. If you fail to master the technique, you will be expelled from this world. Regardless of the outcome, you are forbidden from bringing any other living beings with you, even if it is a wild beast. Naturally, if you become the new Void Walker, I might be able to make an exception. I'm unable to bring all of you with me. Borrowing the power of the black gourd, I can only leave by myself. Dong Shuang said. The 5 supremacies fell silent. Supremacy Qin Huang couldn't help but ask, "World deity Fei Xue, is the power of the black gourd really that powerful? It can even rule over the entire world?" "Yes, it's extremely powerful. Ruling over the entire world is an easy feat. Its power far surpasses your imagination." Dong Shui Ying's voice was filled with astonishment. "That's right. The fireball contained within the black gourd was comparable to the sunstar. If one could unleash its true might, even a tiny bit of it would be enough to kill a ruler. However, it should be extremely difficult to use it. Even after comprehending that technique, one could only gain an initial control over it. Far surpasses our imagination. The five supremacies felt an itch in their hearts. What kind of terrifying power was that? The black gourd might be very powerful, but if he had truly grasped it, there would be no need for him to tell us so much. Supremacy Emperor Su said, "If we join forces and kill him, the black gourd will be ours." World Deity Facia. Spectre Prefecture Master said solemnly, "As long as you are willing to share the power of the black gourd with us, we can choose not to act. There's no other way." Dongbua Shueing shook his head. "Then let's act. Kill. Kill." Although the five supremacies had their own thoughts, Dongbua Shueing wasn't willing to cooperate, nor was he willing to share the black gourd with them. He didn't agree to help them enter the vast cosmos. They could only act together. Who? Dongbua Shueing, who was standing at the highest point of the roof, suddenly disappeared. Amen? The five supremacies who were about to unleash their killing technique were startled. He does indeed have a technique similar to my Spectre world. Spectre Prefecture Master transmitted. The five supremacies had already guessed it. The main reason was that Dongbua Shueing had used too little time to rush from the Chung family to the Su Empire. It was impossible for him to fly normally, so he must have used teleportation. It was just that they thought that it was some special treasure that could do it. But from the looks of it, it was similar to Spectre Prefecture Masters. Pooh, 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 pooh. Five spear shadows appeared from the void and attacked the five supremacies at the same time. At Dongbua Shueing's level, the speed of his spear was too fast. He stabbed out 5 times at the same time. The attack from the Mirage world was too sudden. Even though Supremacy Ken Huang and Fei Hua Palace Master sensed it at the last moment, they were unable to block it in time, and their chests were pierced through. This was a black spear with dark red patterns on it. It was a true god weapon of the eternal Tao of slaughter. In this world, even a weak, true god weapon was rare. There had never been a true god weapon of the eternal Tao of slaughter. When the Void Walkers left behind this world, absolute arts might seem precious, but to those who had already grasped them, they could easily create copies of them. Leaving behind many absolute arts was just a matter of convenience. As for weapons, they needed materials to forge them. To the Void Walkers, they had to pay a higher price. Thus, there were very few true god weapons in this world. The Blood Serpent Spear was the first eternal Tao true god weapon to appear in this world. The absolute art of the Tao of slaughter, the Tao of slaughter that Dongbua Shueing created, and this true god weapon of the eternal Tao of slaughter. It was truly a perfect match. In order to bring Dongbua Shueing's attack to a whole new level, he had already mastered the 6 sword styles of Sever Sword style. Previously, he had been comprehending the usage of the laws of profound mysteries within. Now, he naturally used it on his spear. The Golden Fire Palace Master's body turned into a dazzling golden flame. When the spear pierced through his body was still intact, following which his expression changed as he roared, "There's hex poison!" Paragon Emperor Su's body was surrounded by countless threads as he tried his best to defend against this spear. Although he coughed out blood due to the terrifying might of this spear, his injuries were still relatively light. The Spectre Prefecture Master instantly entered the Spectre world, causing Dongbua Shueing's spear to pierce through thin air. However, Paragon Ken Wang and Fei Hua Palace Master were in a pitiful state. This time's attack. This was the first time that Dongbua Shueing used his full strength. The power of the myriad devil true body was completely unleashed. He even used the Blood Serpent Spear. Paragon Ken Wang's body was instantly destroyed. Fei Hua Palace Master's remaining life force was also quickly exhausted by the power of the Blood Serpent Spear and the Hex Poison. Dongbua Shueing appeared once again. He stood there with a black spear in his hand. His gaze swept across the area. The remaining 3 paragons were slightly stunned. A single exchange. 2 paragons were dead. He has completely suppressed us. Paragon Emperor Su and Golden Fire Palace Master exchanged glances. The Spectre Prefecture Master rejoiced. Fortunately, he could hide in the Spectre world. Otherwise, he would have been killed. Dongwu Shuang was very calm. After opening the Mirage Dao, he was destined to be a terrifying assassin. He could suddenly execute his killer move, making it hard for the enemy to defend against it. How could ordinary venerables withstand his killer move with their defenseless bodies? That was why he managed to achieve such a result. Are you sure you want to continue fighting with me for the Black Gourd? Dongwu Shuang looked at the three of them. His voice reverberated through the world. Looking at the black-robed youth standing in midair, the three felt helpless in their hearts. At this moment, Dongwu Shuang was a little nervous. He was intentionally bluffing. He wasn't afraid that the other party would snatch the Black Gourd, but he was afraid that the other party would disturb his cultivation. The next 5 years were extremely important, and he mustn't be disturbed. With his understanding of the many absolute arts in this world, even if he was hiding in the Mirage world, they could still use karma to determine his approximate location. They could still disturb him. You guys have no hope at all. You guys don't have any hope of obtaining the Black Gourd. If you continue fighting, the 3 holy lands will be destroyed. Dongwu Shuang continued to threaten them. Chapter 709. Dongwu Shuang was most worried that the other party would affect his cultivation. In the end, he might not be able to control the Black Gourd within 5 years and be expelled from the world. That would be such a shame. Luckily, the 3 reverends, Emperor Su, the Master of Golden Fire Palace, and the Master of Spectre Prefecture, didn't know that. They thought that what Dongwu Shuang said made sense. We have no hope at all. He can enter the world that he created himself like Spectre. By then, our normal attacks wouldn't be able to touch him. Even if we tried our best, we could only harass him. It's impossible to kill him. The Master of Golden Fire Palace said, plus his power is stronger than mine and Emperor Su's. Even if we were to fight him head-on, we wouldn't be able to win. He can't kill us, but we can't kill him either. The Master of Spectre Prefecture creased his eyebrows. But once we split up, Emperor Su and I would be in danger of dying if we were to fight one-on-one, the Master of Golden Fire Palace said. The Reverend Emperor Su kept quiet. He wasn't willing to admit it. He couldn't even accept the fact that the treasure in the ancient shrine, the Black Gourd, was taken away by Universe God Fei Xue. However, he understood that they really couldn't do anything to Universe God Fei Xue. Even if the 5 of them attacked together, they wouldn't stand a chance to snatch the Black Gourd. I'm not interested in ruling the world. If I was interested, I would have built a new sanctuary a long time ago. Dongwu Shuang said casually. Then his eyes beamed with anticipation. After some time, I will leave this world and head to the vast universe. That's what I'm looking forward to. The 3 reverends were relieved when they heard that. Leaving soon? That's great. Universe God Fei Xue was really low profile. He was so powerful, but he was willing to be a guest in the Chung family. He had never built a sanctuary, and he obviously had no ambition. The 3 reverends discussed secretly through voice transmission. Even Fei Hua Palace Master and Reverend Qin Huang, who had lost another doppelganger, discussed through voice transmission. In the end, they came to a decision. Since there was no hope, there was no need to fight to the death with Universe God Fei Xue. Universe God Fei Xue is much stronger than we expected. There's really no need to continue this battle. Reverend Emperor Su said loudly. Then let's stop the battle. I wonder how long will it take for guest Fei Xue to leave? If it's fast, it'll take a few years. If it's slow, it'll take 10,000 years at most. Dongwu Shuang said. I've accepted a disciple previously. After teaching him seriously for a while, I'll leave. Yes. The 3 venerables were satisfied. 10,000 years at most, which was a very short period of time for them. Universe God Fei Xue. Golden Fire Palace Master smiled. I like to ask. I heard that you used to use a sword. Why did you change to a spear? The other 2 reverends looked at Dongwu Shuang. That's right. Previously, he had been using swordsmanship, and its power was extraordinary. This time, He actually used a black spear, and its power was obviously stronger and more domineering. I've always been best at using a spear. Dongbua Shuang grinned. Then before, Golden Fire Palace Master was confused to comprehend the 6 sword styles of Sever. Dongbua Shuang said casually. Of course, that wasn't the real answer. When he first came to this world, Dongbua Shuang was worried that the top existences in this world could spy on the outside universe and know of the existence of Dongbua Shuang. In order to prevent himself from being exposed, he changed his appearance and even changed his weapon. But after he got the Black Gourd and understood everything, he knew that they couldn't spy on the outside universe. Hence, he naturally wasn't worried. 6 sword styles of Sever? The 3 reverends nodded faintly. However, they were still confused. Even if he comprehended a unique skill, he still used a sword during battle. Dongbua Shuang smiled, and his appearance changed slightly. The 3 of them were stunned. This is my true appearance. Dongbua Shuang smiled. Previously, when I entered the Chung family, I was worried that someone might have seen me before. Hence, I changed slightly. I see. Universe God Fei Xue was too polite to the Chung family. As long as Universe God Fei Xue displayed his power, they would definitely hand over their unique skills respectfully. Reverend Emperor Su said. The most important thing is the process. Dongbua Shuang smiled. Everyone, since it's done, I shall make a move first. Then, he teleported and disappeared. The 3 reverends looked at one another. Facing Universe God Fei Xue was really stressful. After all, he didn't use the mysterious Black Gourd from the start. I hope he leaves within 10,000 years, Spectre Mansion Master said. For the next 10,000 years, we shall stay together temporarily. Don't let him take us down one by one, Reverend Emperor Su said. The 3 of them were willing to accept the outcome, but they weren't in a good mood. They had teamed up and prepared well. However, Dongbua Shuang's 5 spear strikes had shocked them. His spear skills were so ferocious, and he could teleport. They instantly lost confidence in their original plan. In addition, Dongbua Shuang wasn't willing to continue fighting. Hence, they naturally took advantage of the situation. Deep in the mountains, on the peak of a mountain, Dongbua Shuang, who was dressed in a black robe, appeared. He smiled faintly and waved his hand. Countless bamboos flew up from the bamboo forest at the foot of the mountain. Countless branches were sliced cleanly in the air. Pieces of bamboos landed on the mountain peak and formed a bamboo house. At the same time, the land veins within 100 million miles started to change. A huge formation was formed, isolating the 100 million miles from the outside world. Anyone from the outside world would be trapped in an illusion. With the illusion formation, the 5 reverends would be discovered the moment they entered. They don't know that I still need to comprehend the technique. They are most afraid of disturbing me. With just a few simple sentences, they gave up. Dongbua Shuang was in a good mood. Being able to make them give up was also because he had displayed his full strength from the start. If he didn't have the ability to teleport, the 5 of them would definitely work together and use some treasures to fight him. After all, they had clones. This technique. Dongbua Shuang entered the bamboo house. There was a bamboo bed and a bamboo table. Sitting cross-legged, he took out a bottle of fermented fruit wine and poured himself a cup. He was in a good mood as he drank it. Following which, he waved his hand and placed the Black Gourd on the table. He started to focus on comprehending the technique left behind by the Voidwalker. Within his sea of consciousness, golden runes flashed. The ripples of each rune were extremely profound. This time, Dongbua Shuang calmed his heart and started to comprehend. Far away in the material world of the universe, the white-robed main body was also doing his best to comprehend. The situation in this world was changing. All the powerful existences were trying to find out about the battle between world deity Fei Xue and the 5 reverends in the sky of the Su Empire. Many people had seen it, including powerful existences. Thus, they were able to understand what had happened after asking around. A single exchange. 2 reverends died in battle. The Golden Fire Palace Master and the other 2 reverends finally compromised. Although most of them didn't know that the Black Gourd had landed in the hands of Dongbua Shuang, The scene of that battle was enough to shock all the superpowers. There were even powerful existences who took the initiative to request to meet with Dongbua Shuang. Even the Chung family transmitted messages to Dongbua Shuang. To this, Dongbua Shui Ying's reply was, "I'm not interested in building a sacred ground. I'm currently in seclusion. Don't disturb me." The sun rose and set. The wind blew and the rain fell. The weeds on the mountain peak turned from green to yellow. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years passed. Regardless of whether it was his avatar in this world or his original body in his hometown, the Xia people's world, they were all in seclusion. He even told his wife not to disturb him unless the sky was falling. Boom! The sky was filled with dark clouds. Lightning snakes wreaked havoc in the vast sky. Heavy rain poured down. Dongbua Shui Ying stood in front of the bamboo house, next to the cliff of the mountain peak, allowing the rain to pour on his body. It's been 3 years, and I still haven't mastered it. I've already comprehended thousands of techniques, but they're all wrong. They're all wrong. No matter how I comprehend them, they're all wrong. Dongbua Shui Ying raised his head and looked at the lightning in the sky. His eyes were filled with anxiousness and violence. What's going on? What did I go wrong? His anxiousness and terrifying willpower caused the lightning in the sky to freeze, following which they were completely annihilated. The dark clouds in the sky disappeared. The rain disappeared, revealing a clear sky. Dongbua Shui Ying stood on the mountain peak and looked at the sky coldly. Chapter 710. Every time he failed, he would summarize his experience and try to comprehend it again. After comprehending the cultivation technique that he believed to be the most promising, he would try it again with confidence. However, the black gourd in front of him remained unmoved. The terrifying might contained within it easily incinerated the energy that he sent in. After failing time and time again, thousands of failures, even Dongbua Shui Ying started to feel anxious. He had tried many methods. In fact, he did not even summarize his experience and simply tried to comprehend it randomly. He would comprehend one technique after another and try to guess. Who knew? Maybe you'd be right. He spent 3 months to comprehend more than 2,000 cultivation techniques. However, all of them ended up in failure. Who? Dongbua Shui Ying exhaled deeply. A mountain in front of him was directly destroyed by the air current he exhaled. Violent hurricanes formed in the surroundings. Fortunately, in order to prevent any disturbances, there were no humans within 50,000 kilometers of him. Even if there were people who used to live here, they would be teleported away by Dongbua Shui Ying using his Mirage Dao. After calming himself down, Dongbua Shui Ying turned and returned to his bamboo house. He sat cross-legged in the bamboo house and poured himself a cup of precious fruit wine. After savoring it, he finally regained his composure. I definitely can't continue like this. Dongbua Shui Ying thought to himself. I have already failed thousands of times. Even if I were to continue comprehending these techniques in the remaining 2 years, I would most likely fail again. Perhaps I've been thinking wrongly all this while. Dongbua Shui Ying closed his eyes. Within his sea of consciousness, there were still countless runes flashing. These runes formed a complete cultivation technique. Every rune is filled with endless profoundness. If I were to completely comprehend a single rune, it would take me a very long time. Comprehending those countless runes once would take far more than 5 years. Dongbua Shui Ying thought to himself. Therefore, I instinctively rejected this method. I have always been worried that I do not have enough time. 5 years is too short. Therefore, I would only try to comprehend every single rune, combining the profoundness of the runes to comprehend the entire cultivation technique. Dongbua Shui Ying sensed the countless runes. Perhaps I should focus on one rune. The first character. Dongbua Shui Ying used all of his consciousness to sense the first rune of this technique. The symbol's radiance flickered, fluctuating, incomparably profound. Dongbua Shui Ying studied the runes attentively, comprehending all the ripples and mysteries contained in the runes. Gradually, he gained some understanding in his heart, and, in the end, he managed to form a technique of his own. He can actually form a technique after thoroughly comprehending a single character. Dong Wuxuang opened his eyes in shock. However, it did take a long time for him to fully comprehend a single rune. It took him a full 3 months. At this rate, he would only be able to comprehend 7 more characters in less than 2 years. Let's see if I can control the black gourd. Dong Wuxuang waved his hand, and the black gourd appeared on the table once more. He willed it. Immediately, a white character formed from luminous sun force flew out. However, it was different from the large number of characters in the past. This time, only a single character was formed. However, this character was clearly much larger and more profound. When a rune flew into the black gourd, it was silently incinerated by the terrifying power within. I fail. Dong Wuxuang was startled. I don't have any other methods. Let's continue. Dong Wuxuang closed his eyes. Having failed thousands of times previously, he kept the black gourd and continued to comprehend the second character. The second character was also flickering, emitting mysterious ripples. He studied it carefully. The more he comprehended, the more he realized that there were many similarities between the second character and the first character. After all, it was the same type of character. Thus, the speed of his comprehension was much faster. In just a month, he had completely comprehended the second character. There seems to be a mistake in my comprehension of the first character. After Dong Wuxuang comprehended the second character, he started to have doubts about his comprehension of the first character. He immediately modified it and formed a brand new technique. Wang. When he executed this technique, a white character was formed as well. However, it still failed to enter the black gourd. Dong Wuxuang had failed on the first path. Right now, he had already decided on the second path. After all, he had no other choice. He spent 20 days on the third character. He realized that there were still some mistakes in his comprehension. He tried to modify it again, but to no avail. He spent 15 days on the fourth character. He spent 12 days on the fifth character. He spent 11 days on the sixth character. He spent 10 days on the seventh character. He spent 10 days on the eighth character. Every single time, Shuang would alter his original comprehension. Even though he would always fail in forming the white characters, he had an indescribable feeling that he had found the correct path and that he was nearing success in modifying the technique. One must know, in the first 3 years, he had comprehended a new technique. He had comprehended thousands of techniques, but they were all wrong. Now that he was studying each character, he was able to comprehend the same technique. However, there seemed to be some mistakes, and he had to modify them. A thick layer of snow covered the entire mountain range, including the mountain peak where Ying was cultivating in seclusion. Dong Wuxuang pushed open the bamboo door, pushing the snow away. Stepping on the thick snow, he left behind deep footprints. He walked to the cliff and sat down cross-legged. He sat on the soft snow and closed his eyes to continue comprehending. He was already used to comprehending the techniques left behind by the void walkers. However, he would often change his location. Sometimes, he would go to the lake at the foot of the mountain. Sometimes, he would sit on a thick, ancient tree branch. However, most of the time, he would stay in the bamboo house or the cliff. The 51st character, Dong Wuxuang, sensed the golden characters that appeared in his sea of consciousness. He was trying to comprehend the 51st character. This time, it was much shorter. He finished comprehending it in 8 days. He then made some slight modifications to the technique that he had comprehended. That's right. Dong Wuxuang waved his hand. The black gourd appeared on top of the snow, following which his luminous sun force flew out and condensed into a character. When the character was condensed, it was white. Suddenly, a formless ripple flowed within the character. As the ripple flowed, the character's color changed rapidly. First, it turned pale gold. Then it turned golden. A golden character floated in front of him. Dong Wuxuang was stunned. His heartbeat quickened. This was the first time such a strange scene had appeared. He was filled with anticipation. This time, it might be different. Who? The golden character seeped into the black gourd. It was as though a key had been inserted into the keyhole. The original spirit designs within the black gourd immediately began to circulate. A formless energy started to form, enveloping and controlling the incomparably hot fireball within the black gourd. The size of this fireball was extremely huge. It was comparable to the sun star. Its power was also incomparably strong. The flames it emitted contained a destructive power. However, the formless energy within the black gourd had completely enveloped this fireball. No matter how strong the fireball was, it was unable to incinerate this formless energy. So heavy, Dongbua Shui Ying could feel the incomparably heavy weight of this fireball. In fact, the formless pressure had even seeped into his true deity heart, causing it to tremble slightly. It was like a weak child trying to lift a stone block. It was too heavy. The difference between their levels was too great. It was too strenuous to control it. However, Dongbua Shui Ying had a feeling that if he were to forcefully control it, he should be able to control a strand of this terrifying fireball. This was already the limit that his true deity heart could withstand. Even if it was just a strand of energy, it would be sufficient to instantly kill him. Congratulations, congratulations. You have finally comprehended the technique to control a protective treasure. I'm getting anxious. If you fail, I would have to wait again. I really wonder how many epochs I would have to wait for the next one with potential. The child wearing the red doo-doo appeared on top of the black gourd. The red doo-doo child was extremely happy. Chapter 711. Dongbua Shui Ying grabbed the black gourd with one hand and sensed the mystical array within it. The array had completely enveloped the incomparably powerful fireball. The array is the core of the black gourd. With just this array, I can easily control the sun star. As he sensed, the array was vast and mysterious. It was even more mysterious than the countless worlds in the material realm. It was even more powerful than the hundreds of millions of meteorites in the Lake Heart Island. The level was too high. With the help of the technique left behind by the Void Walkers, he could barely control a trace of its power. Dongbua Shui Ying tried to control the power within the black gourd. Instantly, a terrifying ripple began to accumulate within the black gourd. The formless pressure that the fireball exerted on the true deity heart was increasing rapidly. It was like a huge boulder placed there. It would be fine if one did not move it, but if one tried to move it, the pressure would be too great. Stop, stop, stop. Hurry up and stop. The red undergarment child on top of the black gourd sensed what was happening and hurriedly tried to stop him. What's wrong? Dongbua Shui Ying hurriedly stopped. Beads of perspiration appeared on his forehead. You sure have guts. The weapon spirit, the red undergarment child, said, You have just grasped this technique and know nothing about the black gourd. Yet, you are already controlling its power? I'm just trying. Dongbua Shui Ying felt an itch in his heart. After all, this was the most terrifying power he had ever controlled. He even had a feeling that if he could control this power, he would be able to face the tyrannical, primordial demon head-on. Although he was only controlling a trace of the power, it was still so vast and shocking. Listen to me first. The red undergarment child said helplessly, You have only passed the second trial. There is still the final and most important trial, to refine the black gourd within 1,000,000 years. You have yet to refine it. You are not even a new Void Walker. Do you think that old fellow would allow you to control the black gourd so easily? Dongbua Shui Ying was stunned. Only then did he realize that although he had the black gourd, he had yet to refine it. If he could not refine it within 1,000,000 years, the black gourd would automatically leave. You didn't refine it. You just used the technique to forcefully control it. You can feel it, right? Just sensing it brings about great pressure. Once you start trying to control it, the pressure will be even stronger, right? The red undergarment child said. Dongbua Shui Ying nodded his head. You haven't truly used it yet. The moment you do, the level of this fireball strength is too high. Even a trace of its strength will cause your true deity heart to suffer a backlash. Even if you have a technique to control it, based on the strength of my understanding of your true deity heart, the injuries to your true deity heart will require 10,000 years to recover, said the red undergarment child. Using it once will require 10,000 years. What kind of injury would take so long? Dong Ying was puzzled. He had guessed that he would be injured if he were to forcefully control it. But even if he split his soul into two to cultivate his clone, he would be able to recover in a short period of time. Why would it take 10,000 years for his soul to be injured? If you want to leave this world, you'll have to use the black gourd. Won't you know when you experience it for yourself? The red undergarment child said. Fortunately, your cultivation of the heart is not bad. If your cultivation of the heart was too low, forcefully controlling it might cause your soul to collapse. Dong Ying let out a sigh of relief. No wonder he had to obtain the black gourd. It was so powerful that if he couldn't withstand it, he wouldn't be able to control it at all. In that case, if I were to refine the black gourd, I wouldn't suffer a backlash, right? Dong Ying asked. Once you refine it, you will become the master of the black gourd. It will be your protective treasure. Naturally, it won't harm you, the red undergarment child said. Dong Ying nodded. That was good. If he were to use it once in the future, he would be injured for 10,000 years. That would be too pitiful. However, it was still too early to think about this. After all, refining the black gourd within 1,000,000 years was no easy task. Without a specialized technique, not even hegemons would be able to control it. One could imagine how difficult it would be to refine it. I still have 1,000,000 years. Dong Ying wasn't in a rush. When are you preparing to leave this world? The red undergarment child asked. I'll be able to leave as long as I use the black gourd. I've accepted a disciple in this world. I can't just ignore him like this, Dong Ying said. And once you leave, you won't be able to return unless you become a void walker, the red undergarment child said. That's right. It's very likely that I won't be able to see that disciple of mine again. Dong Ying nodded. Little Seventh had been with him since he was 6 years old. 1,000 years had passed. Naturally, Dong Ying had deep feelings for his disciple, Dong Ying. Chung family. Currently, the status of the Chung family was slightly different. That was because the strongest existence in this world deity Feishue, was once a guest elder of their clan. Moreover, he was also the master of the clan's 7th prince, Chongyan. Even the 3 holy lands didn't dare to bully the Chung family in the slightest. They were afraid of angering the powerful and terrifying world deity Feishue. It's been almost 5 years, but Master still hasn't returned. Seated in front of his study table, Little Seventh held a sword arts book in his hands. However, his mind wasn't on the book. I heard from my father that it's very likely that Master will leave this world, never to return. Little Seventh felt somewhat sad in his heart. It can't be that he won't even see him one last time before leaving, right? When he was 6 years old, he was still young and naive. When he first saw Dong Ying's sword arts, he cried and begged to take him as his master. In the blink of an eye, 1,000 years had passed. The time he spent with his master was even more than the time he spent with his father. Thinking that his master might not return, Little Seventh naturally felt sad and unwilling. Who? A figure appeared in the study. Dong Ying looked at the white-robed young man who was in a daze and chuckled, Little Seventh. Little Chong 7 abruptly turned his head and saw the black-clothed young man behind him. Although his appearance had changed slightly and was only 60 to 70% similar to before, Little Chong 7 did not doubt the familiar aura and the familiar smile. After all, the appearance of an expert could easily change. He hastily put down the book and quickly stood up. He said happily, Master, Amen, prepare yourself. From tomorrow onwards, you will follow me to roam this world. Dong Ying said. Little Seventh's eyes brightened. He thought that his master would leave after saying a few words. And now, he was even bringing him to roam the world? Yes. Little Seventh immediately acknowledged. On the second day, under the warm send-off of Chongshi forefather, Dong Ying brought his disciple Little Seventh to roam this world. Even after coming to this world for so long, he had yet to properly observe this vast world. Since Little Seventh was weak and had cultivated for a short period of time, the places he had been to were even lesser. The two of them roamed the world. Along the way, Dongbua Shui Ying would secretly guide his disciple in his cultivation. He would even purposely assign some tasks to him. Naturally, he did not need much time to guide his disciple. 99% of his time was still spent on refining the black gourd. As time passed, 13,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. Hong, a white-robed young man, sat cross-legged by the lake. Above him was an incomparably huge illusion of an ocean that spanned hundreds of millions of kilometers. Beside him stood a black-robed young man. He was none other than Dongbua Shui Ying. He has finally become a world deity. Dongbua Shui Ying nodded slightly. Seeing his disciple become a world deity, he felt relieved. After a long time, after breaking through, Little Seventh stood up. His face was filled with joy. Dongbua Shui Ying tapped with his finger. A stream of light flew out and entered between Little Seventh's eyebrows. A large amount of information flowed in. It was the detailed analysis of the other grade, 1 deity hearts. It was also Dongbua Shui Ying's understanding and mastery of these grade 1 deity hearts. He was imparting them to his disciple. "Thank you, Master." Little Seventh regained his consciousness and said, "You comprehended the splitting heaven deity heart on your own. I have also imparted you the guidance of the other 8 grade 1 deity hearts. From now on, your cultivation will depend on yourself." Dongbua Shui Ying said as he took out a storage wristband and handed it over, "There are some external items in this wristband. They will be helpful to your cultivation. Of course, your Chung family has a deep foundation. I believe your father will do his best to nurture you. These external items are just a small token of my appreciation." Yes. Little Seventh received the storage wristband. His eyes were slightly moist. He understood that they were finally parting. "You're already a world deity. If you become an almighty, your lifespan will be even longer. If there's a chance in the future, we might meet again." Dongbua Shui Ying said, "There's one more thing that I have to tell you before I leave." Little Seventh was stunned. Your master, came from the outer universe." Dongbua Shui Ying smiled. "My real name is Dongbua Shui Ying." "From the outer universe?" Little Seventh was slightly stunned. "Let's part ways here." Dongbua Shui Ying smiled and teleported away. "Master!" Little Seventh could not help but shout. He looked around and understood that his master had really left. "Master? Dongbua Shui Ying?" Little Seventh muttered. High up in the sky, Dongbua Shui Ying was still trying to refine the black gourd in his hand. "You've parted with your disciple, right? Are you preparing to leave?" The red undergarment child appeared on top of the black gourd. "There's one more thing that I haven't done." Dongbua Shui Ying smiled. "There are so many absolute arts in this world. If I were to leave just like that, I would regret it. There are very few absolute arts in the outer universe." Chapter 712. The red undergarment child said solemnly, "I have to remind you that this world was left behind by that old fogey, the Void Walker. The earliest life forms in this world were actually from your cosmos. It was that old fogey who sent the first batch of humans here." Dongbua Shui Ying nodded. He had also heard of a legend in this world. It was said that at the beginning of the world, a group of humans descended along with an ancient shrine. Listening to the words of the weapon spirit, this was indeed the case. That old fogey, the Void Walker, came to your cosmos and roamed around. While hiding his strength, he befriended a good friend. The two of them had an extremely good relationship. That friend of his eventually died before he could transcend as a stage 4 world deity. The red undergarment child sighed. Before he died, the Void Walker told his friend about his identity. The Void Walker tried his best to help him, but his friend still failed to transcend. Before his death, the Void Walker wished for the people of his hometown to live a peaceful and happy life. Thus, the Void Walker left behind a world and moved his friend's entire tribe into this world. There would be no external enemies. At the same time, he left behind many cultivation techniques and absolute arts. The red undergarment child said, at the same time, he left behind an order. You are not to bring the life forms here away. As for the absolute arts of this world, if they are unique, you are not to bring them away either. So that's how it is. Dongbua Shui Ying shook his head. a few epochs have passed. His friend's tribe would have probably been wiped out by the end of an epoch. Currently, the humans of this world are existences from the epochs after that. Thus, if you were to become a void walker, you would be able to decide how to deal with them. The red undergarment child laughed. Since you have yet to pass the test, you naturally do not have the authority to deal with them. Dongbo Shui-ing understood. If I can't bring the unique copy away, then I can bring away the non-unique ones, right? Dongbo Shui-ing asked. Yes. The red undergarment child nodded. Dongbo Shui-ing smiled. That was not bad. After all, as long as one completely learned an absolute art, they would be able to create their own original copy. Just like how he had mastered the 6 sever sword styles, he could easily create another original copy. After a few epochs in this world, there were indeed a few absolute arts that had more than one original copy. Sky Fire Palace. Boom! Dongbo Shui-ing transformed into a dazzling beam of light and flew at high speed. His body was surrounded by lightning and fire as he charged into the main hall of the Sky Fire Palace. With such great fanfare, the 2 Sky Fire Palace masters naturally knew about it immediately. It's Universe God Feishua. He is Universe God Feishua. The entire Sky Fire Palace was in a state of anxiety. Those powerful existences could only watch from afar, not daring to intervene. Logically speaking, powerful existences were stronger than world deities. However, world deity Feishua had changed this common sense. This was a heaven-defying world deity. Feihua Palace Master, Paragon Qinhuang, and the others couldn't even withstand a single move from this existence. Even the Golden Fire Palace Master and the others were at a disadvantage. Rumor had it that he could teleport and kill whoever he wanted to. The reason why the 5 venerables from the 3 sanctuaries stayed together was because they were worried that they would be defeated one by one. It could be seen how powerful Universe God Feishua was. Universe God Feishua, I wonder why you are here at my Sky Fire Palace. Suddenly, 2 illusory figures appeared. They were the Golden Fire Palace Master and Feihua Palace Master. However, they were incarnations that descended through karma. Their original bodies and incarnations weren't in the Sky Fire Palace. Feihua Palace Master's expression was complicated. After all, it was said that he was stabbed to death by Universe God Feishua. Hoo. The other 3 illusory figures appeared too. They were the other 3 venerables. Now the 5 venerables of this world had descended with their incarnations. Universe God Feishua, you said that you would leave after 10,000 years. It has already been 13,000 years. Paragon Emperor Su said. The 5 venerables stared at Dongbo Shui-ing. When are you leaving? Don't worry. My disciple has become a universe god. It's time for me to leave. Dongbo Shui-ing said. However, before this, there are many absolute skills in this world that I haven't seen before. Hence, I need to look for the original copy. Don't tell me you want to take the absolute skill away? The Golden Fire Palace Master said angrily. The original copy of the absolute skill is passed down from generation to generation. If you take it away, what will the later generations learn? The other 4 venerables were furious too. Of course, it was just an act on the surface. The Golden Fire Palace Master was truly worried about the later generations. As for Paragon Emperor Su and Spectre Prefecture Master, they didn't really care. As long as they were strong, they wouldn't need to care about the cultivation of the later generations. If Dongbo Shui-ing wanted to snatch it away, Emperor Su and the rest wouldn't stop him. Don't worry. If it's the only copy, I won't take it away. If it's not the only copy, then I will take one. Dongbo Shui-ing said. The Golden Fire Palace Master heaved a sigh of relief. The other 4 venerables looked relieved on the surface. In the following days, Shui-ing had traveled across the 3 great holy grounds and 9 great clans. He had learned all the absolute arts once, and it could be considered as broadening his horizons. Most likely, he was only confident of cultivating the other Tao of slaughter absolute art, the great extinction scripture. The other absolute skills wouldn't reach great success. At most, he would only reach small success like the luminous sun and extreme annihilation mysterious body. With his current strength, if he didn't reach great success, these absolute skills wouldn't increase his strength. They would only increase his knowledge. Ooh! A figure appeared in the desolate desert. It was the black-robed Dongbua Shuang. Dongbua Shuang revealed a smile. I learned the 6 sword styles of Sever and the Great Extinction Scripture. At the same time, I brought 5 original copies of absolute skills. All in all, I have a total of 7 complete absolute skills. Including the first half of the Blood Demon Scripture, I have a total of 7 incomplete absolute skills. This was extremely shocking. After all, in the divine world and abyss, only sovereigns would have so many original copies of absolute skills. However, there was a problem with these absolute skills. At the peak, one could only reach the paragon level. One must know that in the divine world and abyss, there were some absolute skills that even sovereigns could cultivate. For example, the complete version of the myriad demon true body was beyond the sovereign level. Clearly, even though the Voidwalkers had left behind many absolute skills, they also believed that the chances of a sovereign being born in this world was extremely low. Thus, they threw away these basic absolute skills. No matter what, it's still 7.5 absolute skills. Dongbua Shuang was in a good mood. In the past, he wanted to give his wife an absolute skill, but he couldn't find a suitable one. But now he had one. Let's begin. Dongbua Shuang stretched out his hand, and a huge black gourd appeared in his hand. The red Dudu child emerged from the black gourd. Are we leaving this world? Amen. Dongbua Shuang nodded. Be careful. It will take 10,000 years for you to recover from the injuries you receive from using it once. The red Dudu child smiled. Let's give it a try. Dongbua Shuang was also filled with anticipation. He stretched out his hand and pulled out the stopper of the black gourd. Pa! The moment the stopper was pulled out, a terrifying wave of heat spread out, causing the desert in front of him to distort. Countless grains of sand melted into particles. Everything around the mouth of the gourd started to distort. The power it exuded was so great that even ordinary paragons with weaker life preservation abilities would be turned into ashes. Only peak paragons will be able to withstand it. I haven't even used it yet. Just pulling out the stopper already exudes such power. Dongbua Shuang sighed inwardly. He then started to execute the technique. His luminous sun force formed a white rune. Light circulated within the rune, and it rapidly turned into a golden rune. This golden rune directly entered the black gourd, and it started to activate the incomparably huge array within the black gourd. Dongbua Shuang was extremely familiar with this array. For the past 13,000 years, he had been pondering on how to refine the black gourd, and had studied this array countless times. Unfortunately, it was simply too vast and complicated. Even now, he had no idea how to do it. He could only use the most basic method to activate the array, and he started to activate the terrifying fireball's might. This caused an immense pressure on Dongbua Shuang's soul. Go! He gritted his teeth. Suddenly, a blurry ripple surged out from the mouth of the gourd. This black ripple was somewhat similar to the sun ripple within the sun star. However, the sun ripple came from the depths of the sun star. Like the void black soil layer, only rulers could withstand the power of the sun star. Of course, Paragon Huo Chung and Monarch Green, who specialized in the Tao of Fire, could also withstand it. However, the sun star's core had an even more terrifying ripple. Even rulers could not withstand it. And now, the ripple that surged out from the mouth of the black gourd was precisely the ripple of the fireball. Although it was just an external ripple, it was bound together by the even more terrifying array within the black gourd, allowing it to surge out through the mouth of the gourd. One must know that a fully dispersed sun ripple was already that terrifying. Now, under the control of the array, the ripple that surged out through the mouth of the gourd was even more terrifying. Black ripples surged out from the mouth of the gourd, spreading out in a fan shape. The power was so great that it could cause even rulers' expressions to change. Sila, the terrifying might caused a huge tear to appear in this incomparably stable world. Retrieve. Dongbua Shui Ying endured the pain in his head. He no longer dared to forcefully endure it. He immediately stopped the array, and instantly, the black ripple that surged out from the mouth of the gourd disappeared. Dongbua Shui Ying plugged the stopper, and the huge tear in the world in front of him gradually closed up. Outside the tear, he could see countless streams of liquid flowing outside. Let's go. Grabbing the black gourd, Dongbua Shui Ying rushed into the tear in the world membrane. As the tear completely closed up, Dongbua Shui Ying disappeared from this world. Chapter 713. From a raging river in the void, a black-robed figure flew out. I'm out. Looking at the hundreds of billions of miles long void river in front of him, Dongbua Shui Ying sighed. No matter how hard he tried to use the mirage world to sense it, he was still unable to find that hidden world within the void river. Stop looking. You only had the chance to enter after obtaining the star map. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to find that world even if you searched for an entire epoch. The voice of the red undergarment child was transmitted into Dongbua Shui Ying's mind. You better think of a way to refine the black gourd within 1,000,000 years. If you can't refine it, I can only leave. I understand. Dongbua Shui Ying frowned as he rubbed his head. Pain. Waves of pain could be felt as the black aura seeped into his true deity heart. His originally glass-like body was now filled with a faint black aura, causing him to feel pain at every moment. I can only slowly consume it. It would indeed take about 10,000 years for this black aura to diminish. Dongbua Shui Ying could feel the rate at which the black aura in his true deity heart was being consumed. Dongbua Shui Ying, this is just a small backlash. Before you fully recover, you must not use it a second time. If you do so, the backlash will be even more severe. Your soul might not be able to withstand it and collapse. The red undergarment child transmitted a message to remind him. You are also quite impressive. I have placed you in my Eden treasure, and you are still able to transmit a message to me easily. Dongbua Shui Ying replied with a smile. Although he was in constant pain, he had experienced the torture of the 6 ghosts' resentment when he was young. Thus, he was naturally able to speak in a jovial manner. It's just the Eden treasure. It can't restrict me at all. Even the famous Lake Heart Island and 6 paths Tianluan of your cosmos are things that I can enter and leave whenever I want. The red undergarment child was incomparably confident. As long as you are unable to refine me within 1,000,000 years, no matter where you hide me or who helps you, I will be able to leave easily. I believe you. I believe you. Dongbua Shui Ying smiled and said nothing more. What he trusted was not the spirit, but the Void Walker. The fact that the Void Walker was able to refine the solar star into a gourd and turn it into a protective treasure was enough to make Dongbua Shui Ying look up to him. After all, according to the legends, even the Lake Heart Island Master, the demon ancestor, who is the strongest in the many eras, could not do anything to the Sun Star and the Moon Star. Let's go. With a wave of his hand, Dongbua Shui Ying tore open a space-time tunnel and began his return journey. Swoosh! Black mist sea, the Emperor's residence. Dongbua Shui Ying appeared high up in the sky. Instinctively, his senses enveloped the entire mansion, and he found his wife, Jing Qiu. But at the same time, he also found an old friend. Persei. Dongbua Shui Ying was shocked. Back then, in the Xia people's world, the sorcerer god and the great demon god wanted to start a war in the dark to occupy the entire Xia people's world so that they could occupy the Eden treasure, Crimson Rock Mountain. At that time, they coveted the treasures and world deity ranked secret techniques left behind by the powerful existence, Sacred Master Crimson Dust. Several world deity ranked existences had sent their peak demigods to the Xia people's world. At that time, the lords of Alan, Wuma Hai, Persei, Qin Huang, and the Maisha Master had all gone to Crimson Rock Mountain. Even the poisoned Dongbua Shui Ying had risked his life to enter Crimson Rock Mountain in search of a chance of survival. Within Crimson Rock Mountain, He and Persei had been in the same team, and they had experienced life and death together. Within the courtyard, there was tea on the table beside her, and the fragrance of the tea wafted through the air. Jing Xiao, dressed in light blue robes, was currently seated cross-legged on the grass. Her silky hair was draped over her shoulders, and a true god sword was placed on her knees. She was currently sensing the mysterious Tao within the sword. Who? Dongbo Shui Ying appeared by the side. Watching his wife cultivate, he could not help but reveal a smile. However, he soon felt his heart tighten. His wife was different from him. She was the eldest daughter of monarch Mo Shui, and she had cultivated for a very long time in her previous life. Although her memories had awakened after her reincarnation, the collision of the memories of her two lives had allowed her to take a step forward and become a stage 4-world deity. Although she had improved after that, compared to Dongbo Shuang, Qiu Qi Bai, and the others, she was still much, much slower. Dongbo Shuang had already done his best to help her, but his wife's improvement was still very slow. Dongbo Shuang had always been very worried that his wife would not be able to transcend. Transcending was something that no one could help. Even a void walker with his strength could not help his good friend. At most, he would receive some external assistance. In the end, one still had to rely on themselves to comprehend the Tao and transcend. Jing Xiao, Dongbo Shuang muttered. Some stage 4-world deities would choose to reincarnate when their true deity heart was about to collapse. After a successful reincarnation, they would have new memories of their lives, which would allow their mental state to become ethereal. But after fusing with the memories of their previous lives, they would only live for a slightly longer period of time. It could be as long as 3 to 5 billion years, or as short as 1 billion years. It was impossible for them to be like Dongbo Shuang, Qiu Qi Bai, and the others who had ample time to cultivate. No matter what, I will do my best. Dongbo Shuang temporarily tossed these thoughts to the back of his mind. He was still very open-minded. It was enough for him to cherish the time they had together. How could there be anything in this world that was perfect? Amen? Jing Xiao opened her eyes and looked to her side. When she saw the most important man in her life, she could not help but smile. Snow Eagle, you're back. You said before that you were in closed-door cultivation, and that I wouldn't disturb you unless there's something important. How is it? Did you gain anything? Yes. Dongbo Shuang smiled and nodded. My gains are quite great. His gains this time were indeed great. It allowed him to gain enough power to fight against sovereigns. It was a pity that he had yet to refine it, and could only use it once every 10,000 years. Right, Jing Xiao, I discovered that Brother Persei is also in the residence. Dongbo Shuang asked in surprise. He's only been here for half a year. Jing Xiao kept her divine sword and stood up. He came to visit you. When he found out that you weren't around, he planned to leave. I know that you have a deep friendship with him, and that you've mentioned him many times, so I persuaded him to stay in the residence. Amen. Dongbo Shuang nodded. You did the right thing. After he left the Xia people's world and entered the deity world, his rise was extremely fast. He became a disciple of the God Emperor, became a stage 4-world deity, and even opened up 2 Daos. Now, he was one of the 3 ancestors. Dongbo Shuang had long since ordered people to investigate his good friends, especially Persei, Misha Master, and Ken Wang. After all, the difference in strength between them was too great. Dongbo Shuang did not know what to say when they met. Just reminiscing about the past? That would only add to the awkwardness. Thus, he only ordered people to help Persei and the others in the dark, especially since the Mishan Master and the others were reincarnators of the Temporal Temple. Even if he were to help them in the dark, he had to be more cautious. Brother Persei has finally become a world deity. Dongbo Shuang also understood the reason why Persei did not come to meet him despite his fame. In the past, Persei was just one of the countless deities in the vast deity world. Thus, he had never come to meet him. But now, he had already broken through to become a world deity. World deities were still quite rare. In every star field, the number of world deities could be counted with one's fingers. Their lifespan was also around 10 billion years. Percy I's state of mind was different. Naturally, he could come to meet him calmly. Jing Xiu, I'll go meet Brother Percy I first. After that, I have some matters to discuss with you in detail. Dongbua Shuang said. Hurry up and go meet your good brother. We have plenty of time. Jing Xiu smiled as she urged him. Amen. Dongbua Shuang took a step and disappeared. He immediately went to meet Brother Percy I, whom he had not met for 10 million years. Chapter 714. Monarch Residence. Within the cavern-dwelling courtyard where Chanjiu resided, Ying brought out a flask of good wine along with 2 to 3 side dishes. Ying and Chanjiu sat down and began eating. I never thought that Monarch would be willing to sit with me and drink with me. Percy I laughed. You still call me Monarch? Dongbua Shuang frowned. Ha, Dongbua. Percy I laughed. Back then, when we went to the Xia People's World's Crimson Rock Mountain, I was amazed that you were able to catch up to me, Qin Huang, Meishan Master, and the Lords of Elan in a mere 200 years of cultivation. With your strength, it would have been a waste if you had died in Crimson Rock Mountain. Your innate talent and comprehension are much higher than ours. Now, it seems that my foresight was indeed accurate. The moment you were cured of the hexing poison, with the guidance of the technique left behind by the powerful existence in Crimson Rock Mountain, you improved by leaps and bounds. You single-handedly reversed the war between the Xia people and entered the deity world, becoming a disciple of the God Emperor. In a short 10 million years, you far surpassed the ordinary powerful existences and became one of the 3 ancestors. Percy I shook his head and sighed. If someone had told me that the hexing poison brat would become one of the 3 ancestors in the future, stronger than many powerful existences, I would have said that person's brain had gone haywire. Dongbua Shuang laughed as he listened. Time passed so quickly. The incident in the Xia People's world was still fresh in his mind. For the sake of the final battle against the great demon god and the sorcerer god, even his wife Jing Xiu had almost died. Fortunately, Chihua Laozu had helped. Even now, Dongbua Shuang was filled with gratitude towards Chihua Laozu. I returned to the deity world. Percy I said, I heard about your matter. The gap between us grew larger and larger. At that time, I thought that if I could not become a world deity, I would never see you again. Why bother? Dongbua Shuang shook his head. Percy I smiled. I know that you had a beloved wife when you were transcendent. You love her very much. If you are willing, I can ask a supreme being to help you revive her. Dongbua Shuang said. Percy I was stunned. There was a hint of pain in the depths of his eyes. No need. Percy I shook his head. No need? Dongbua Shuang was a little surprised. He had secretly ordered people to investigate and help Percy I in secret. Therefore, he had a deep understanding of Percy I. Percy I could be said to be an infatuated person. After his wife died, he was even somewhat infatuated with her. It had been like this for many years. Percy I smiled. I once tried to resurrect my wife at all costs, but I was too weak. How could I ask a powerful being to help me? Also, Dongbua, you were just a supervisor, so I didn't ask for your help. But as the years passed, time was indeed very magical. Unknowingly, the long years caused me to change. I no longer feel sad. I can feel that she is by my side, living in the depths of my heart. She will be with me forever. Percy I smiled. I am not in a hurry to resurrect her. Now that I have become a world deity, I will become a stage 2 or a stage 3 world deity in the future. In fact, I long to transcend and personally resurrect my wife. If I cannot do it and give up, I will ask Dongbua for your help. Percy I said, Dongbua, if you are willing, I will be incomparably grateful. Dongbua Shuang nodded. He could feel it. Percy I's character was slightly obsessed, but when it came to matters of the heart, he could only go along with the other party. Dongbua, do you know how Qin Huang and Meishan Master are doing? Percy I asked. They are reincarnators of the Temporal Temple. What do you think they can do? Dongbua Shuang shook his head. My relationship with the Temporal Island is just SOSO. If I were to help them, I might end up harming them instead. Within a vast starry sky, an incomparably huge array spanning a radius of 5 trillion kilometers was currently enveloping the entire starry sky. Countless runes were swimming within the starry sky. Furthermore, some of these runes were emitting a terrifying energy of fire, while others contained the icy cold energy of water. The energy of fire and water were swimming within the countless void runes, clashing against each other time after time. Hong, 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 hong. The terrifying energy of fire and water clashed against each other, producing a kind of void energy. This void energy seemed very weak, but it contained an extremely terrifying destructive power. Even rulers would not dare to use their bodies to resist it. The moment they came into contact with it, even rulers would be instantly annihilated. This was the Void Twin Extreme Array, which the Bloodshed God Emperor did not care about the price he had to pay after touching upon the threshold of a higher level. The arrogant Primal Master knew that the Bloodshed God Emperor had comprehended this technique and understood that the Bloodshed God Emperor was very close to taking that crucial step. The void energy slowly spread outwards, affecting the vast starry sky that was enveloped by the array, causing the entire starry sky to shatter into pieces. At the core of this enormous array, the crimson-robed, bloodshed god emperor was currently seated cross-legged at the center. He was controlling this frightening array. He was not worried about the enemies attacking him. With the power of the Void Twin Extreme Array, even if several rulers came, they would just be sending themselves to death. It's a pity that this Void Twin Extreme Array had a huge flaw. It moved very slowly. It was very easy for enemies to evade it. There was no helping it. After all, he had yet to take that final step. It was already very impressive for him to be able to set up this array with the help of external objects. Although I have to move the array every time I check a place, it's impossible for me to do so. Their lair will definitely not be able to hide from this kind of investigation. Bloodshed God Emperor's eyes were filled with coldness. A few tens of millions of years is sufficient for me to search through all 10 starfields. My cultivator cosmos will absolutely not allow existences from other cosmos to act so unbridled. Who? Suddenly, outside the vast array, a figure appeared. It was a bald, golden-robed, barefooted man. The aura he exuded made everything around him submit. Even the heavens and the earth had to submit. His pair of eyes were calm and vicissitudes of life. Bloodblade, who was inside the extreme void twin array, turned to look. He couldn't help but be surprised. Monarch Green, Master. The bald, golden-robed man smiled. What are you doing? Bloodblade found that his eldest disciple had completely changed. In the past, Monarch Green was still very reserved, and he naturally made others have the urge to submit to him. But the current Monarch Green had a kind of crushing aura that made everything submit. Even the heavens and the earth had to submit. In the past, Monarch Green often wore gray robes, and his hair was messy. Now, he was wearing an even more gorgeous golden robe, and he was bald. The most important thing was Bloodblade could feel that the aura of his eldest disciple was completely different. It was more vast and distant. You've broken through? Bloodblade asked. Monarch Green nodded with a smile. I've coincidentally sent an avatar into another cosmos. The life forms in that cosmos are completely different from us, and I can't cultivate their cultivation techniques. But I've been investigating in the dark for many years, and I've finally made some progress, allowing me to break through to the ruler realm. Good, very good. Bloodblade revealed a joyous look. Your teacher is currently executing the Extreme Void Twin Array to investigate the base of the Ancestor Mother Religion. It is highly likely that the Ancestor Mother Religion will retaliate in the end. You being able to become a ruler at this moment will increase the overall strength of our cultivator cosmos. Teacher, feel free to instruct me. Monarch Green said. Dongbo Shui Ying returned from that world. After returning to the monarch residence, he told his wife Jing Xiu about the 7 absolute arts he had obtained. Even though Jing Xiu was startled, she still chose an absolute art. Absolute arts were useful in helping one transcend. After inspecting his children and disciples, he felt that they still had to temper themselves. Thus, he temporarily did not impart any absolute arts to them. What? Dongbua Shui-Ying, who was currently discussing sword techniques with his wife, suddenly had a change in expression. He was startled. What's wrong? Jing Xiu was slightly startled. I've just received the news. Dongbua Shui-Ying said, my eldest disciple, Brother Monarch Green, has become a ruler. Jing Xiu was startled when she heard that. Even though Monarch Green could fight against rulers when he was a paragon, this crucial step was extremely difficult to break through. Even Pang, he had to create a new cultivation technique before he became a ruler. And now, Monarch Green had broken through? Pang Yi and Monarch Green, one in front and one behind, were fast. It seems that we have to go and congratulate him in a few days. Dongbua Shui-Ying sighed with a smile. My eldest disciple brother has accumulated a deep foundation. It is natural for him to break through. We have to prepare a gift to congratulate him. Jing Xiu added. After Pang Yi became a ruler, he had once preached about the Tao publicly. Dongbua Shui-Ying and the others went to congratulate Pang Yi. Most powerful existences would be congratulated. As for a huge matter like becoming a ruler, it was naturally worth celebrating. Soon, Monarch Green began to send out invitations. All of the hegemons and major powers, regardless of whether they were from the God Realm or the Abyss, received an invitation. This caused Dongbua Shui-Ying to click his tongue and sigh. My big senior brother is usually very simple and low-key. Why is he so ostentatious now? However, he still prepared a gift. He took his wife and children to congratulate them on the day of the banquet held by Qing Jun. Chapter 715. Dongbua Shui-Ying and his wife and children flew out through the time-space tunnel. With a glance, they could see that towering void mountain range in the outside world. This enormous mountain range was constantly emitting light, illuminating millions and millions of kilometers. Dongbua Shui-Ying saw this and felt the pressure brought by the mountain range. He could not help but think, this territory of eldest disciple brother has clearly changed its internal arrays. Its power is much greater than before, and it is only slightly weaker than the Bloodshed God Palace. Father, this is the Star Mountain. It is indeed extraordinary. It is much more domineering than our Black Fog Sea. Dongbua Yu and Dongbua Qing Yao said as they watched. Places like the Bloodshed God Palace were open to the public. But under normal circumstances, outsiders would not dare to enter Monarch Green's territory without permission. Dongbua Qing Yao and Dongbua Yu, the two siblings, had never been here before. Jing Xiu chuckled by the side. When your father becomes a ruler, he will make our Black Fog Sea even better. Ha ha! Dongbua Shui-Ying laughed. Go, let's go over first. Monarch Green had become a ruler. With his identity, he could not personally receive every guest. Even when Dongbua Shui-Ying came, it was the two powerful existences under Monarch Green who took the initiative to receive him. Brother Dongbua, a familiar, clear voice sounded. Dongbua Shui-Ying turned over and saw a red-haired, red-browed, red-skinned, muscular man walking over. Big brother Hua Chung. Dongbua Shui-Ying also walked over. Teacher, Dongbua Qing Yao obediently shouted out. Ha ha, you brought your entire family over? Paragon Hua Chung laughed. I really envy you for bringing your wife and children. I'm all alone now. Teacher, don't you still have me, your disciple? Dongbua Qing Yao asked. Paragon Hua Chung could not help but laugh. Because he had a deep relationship with Dongbua Shui-Ying, he pampered this female disciple a lot. He was not as strict as an ordinary teacher and disciple. Instead, he doted on her like a daughter. Qing Yao, follow me for a walk. Jing Xiu immediately brought her children away. Dongbua Shui-Ying and Paragon Hua Chung walked together. Brother Dongbua, have you heard? Paragon Hua Chung said. At the same time, he isolated the surrounding sounds. Paragon Green entered another cosmos and obtained a huge harvest there. Only then did he break through to become a ruler. I have not heard of it. Dongbo Shui shook his head. You and him are senior and junior brothers, and you don't know? Paragon Huocheng was surprised. After all, I've only been cultivating for a short period of time. I don't have many good friends among the venerables. Although Monarch Green is my senior brother, I've only met him a few times. Shuang said. In terms of networking, he was still lacking compared to Paragon Huocheng, who had lived for a very long time. Furthermore, Paragon Huocheng's character was straightforward and warm, and he indeed had many good friends. Paragon Huocheng nodded his head and said, even though entering another cosmos is a rare opportunity, there are quite a few of us cultivators who have had this experience. This did not include those that had not been made public. So this isn't much. But the strange thing is, your senior brother's temperament has changed a lot. His temperament has changed a lot? Dongbo Shui was surprised. Paragon Huocheng said softly. It's not an ordinary size. You'll know when you see him. Temperament change? Dongbo Shui was puzzled. Logically speaking, after cultivating for such a long period of time, it was rare for one's temperament to change too much. Such a huge change in personality, it's very likely related to the universe he went to. Paragon Huocheng shook his head. I wonder what he experienced in that cosmos and what kind of cosmos it is. It actually caused such a huge change in him. Still, becoming a ruler is a good thing. Dongbo Shui was curious as well. Gradually, guests arrived one after another. Paragons, powerful existences, and even rulers arrived. Empress Qianhe, a graceful and luxurious red-robed lady, stepped through the void. Finally, Monarch Green appeared and took the initiative to welcome her. Senior brother Monarch Green? Dongbo Shui looked at Monarch Green in shock. In the past, Monarch Green had messy hair, gray robes, and bare feet. His aura was also gentler. But the Qing Jun in front of him was bald, dressed in a gorgeous and dazzling golden robe, walking barefoot, and his whole body was clean, without a trace of dust. His mighty and boundless aura crushed everything, and his eyes looked even more vicissitudes of life, as if they contained endless mysteries. How is it different, right? Paragon Huocheng said. He has indeed changed, and changed a lot. Dongbo Shui nodded his head. This wasn't an ordinary banquet, but a huge matter like Monarch Green becoming a ruler. He had also sent out an invitation, so the rulers would definitely appear. No matter what, they had to send out an incarnation. Empress Qianhe, you are the earliest. Monarch Green smiled. Empress Qian, he was inwardly shocked. Even though Monarch Green's eyes were calm, he gave her an invisible pressure that made her feel an intense threat. She immediately chuckled. Pang, he has just become a ruler not long ago. Now that you have become one as well, it seems like my ranking on the Cosmos Deity Demon list will fall by 1 rank again. I have just broken through normally. Brother Pang, he has opened up a new cultivation technique. He is the more amazing one. Monarch Green smiled humbly. Suddenly, he looked into the distance. Empress Qian, he also looked over and said, your teacher is here. Who? The person who walked out from the void was a man dressed in crimson robes with a blackbird on his shoulder. He was the strongest existence in this cultivator cosmos, Bloodblade. Teacher, Monarch Green immediately welcomed him. I thought that I, as your teacher, will be the first ruler to arrive at this banquet. Who would have thought that Empress Qian, he would be faster? Bloodblade smiled at his disciple. Cultivate well and quickly improve. Suppress Primordial and Abyss Progenitor, those 2 old fellows. By then, the 2 of us will be in the top 2 of the Cosmos Deity Demon list. Bloodblade, including that talented young fellow Dongbo Shui. The 3 of you should be in the top 3 of the Cosmos Deity Demon list. Empress Qian, he purposely said. That's not impossible. Bloodblade's eyes brightened. Your skin is really thick. Empress Qian, he shook her head. The rulers could know each other's location through karma. After Empress Qian, he and Bloodblade arrived. Primordial Master, Temporal Island Lord, Abyss Progenitor, Purgatory Ruler, Pang, and others arrived one after another. As the rulers arrived, the other paragons and powerful existences could only watch from afar. Dongwu Shui was also watching from afar. Suddenly, Dongwu Shuiying, that ruler called Bloodblade, should be your teacher, right? A voice resounded in his mind. It was clear and crisp. It was the voice of the protective treasure, Blackgourd. Yes, he is my teacher, Dongwu Shuiying replied. He is very strong, truly very strong. He is clearly much stronger than the other rulers. He is indeed the #1 expert in your cultivator cosmos. The Blackgourd's spirit said. How do you know? Dongwu Shuiying was surprised and puzzled. He knew that the Blackgourd spirit had an extremely powerful scouting ability. But how could it determine one's strength? I judge based on the aura of the soul. The Blackgourd spirit transmitted. It's just checking the aura of a ruler's soul. To me, it is extremely easy. No matter how deep they hide, I can still detect them. Aura of the soul is a more common method of detecting one's strength. For example, those who comprehend laws and profound mysteries like you. The more profound your laws and profound mysteries are, the stronger your true deity heart will be. Chapter 716. Today was the second night. Dongwu Shuiying agreed with this point. Because the true deity heart was formed by the fusion of the laws and profound mysteries and the soul. The stronger the laws and profound mysteries, the stronger the true deity heart. But how important was the soul? Everyone had to hide it deeply, and outsiders could not detect it. Even a little bit of aura could only be used to determine one's identity. Like the bloodshed tavern robe, one could easily disguise the strength of one's aura. Even for other cultivation systems, with the exception of a few, the stronger one is the stronger the soul. The Blackgourd treasure spirit said. Dongwu Shuiying pondered for a moment. Like the ancestor mother religion, the stronger the body, the stronger the soul. That time when he unleashed his illusory realm, Protector Huizhu, who had the strongest body, could easily resist against it. One could see how strong his soul was. Your teacher is very strong, but this senior disciple brother of yours, Monarch Green, is very powerful too. The Blackgourd treasure spirit continued. He is even stronger than that primal master and abyss primogenitor. Ah! Dongwu Shuiying was startled. The Blackgourd treasure spirit continued. From their conversation, I can see that they respect primal master and abyss primogenitor. But their combat power should not be that strong. Are you saying that senior disciple Brother Monarch Green is stronger than primal master and abyss primogenitor? Dongwu Shuiying transmitted a question. If this news were to spread, it would be too shocking. Primal master and abyss primogenitor were rulers with deep accumulations. Even if Pang Yi created a new cultivation technique, his ranking on the Cosmos Deity Demon list would be lower than theirs. Monarch Green had just broken through and had yet to create a new cultivation technique, yet he could suppress Primal Master and Abyss Primogenitor. His temperament has changed greatly, unless he has been possessed. Dongwu Shuiying muttered, that's not right. Senior disciple Brother Monarch Green has a true body and avatar inside. It is extremely difficult for others to possess him, but it is ultimately a different cosmos. Perhaps there might be some unheard of cultivation technique. Because he has been possessed, his temperament has changed, and his combat power has increased by leaps and bounds. But if he has really been possessed, shouldn't he be more careful in concealing it? Dongwu Shuiying thought. The judgment of the Blackgourd treasure spirit caused Dongwu Shuiying to become vigilant. I'm talking about their souls, the Blackgourd artifact spirit said confidently. I can easily detect their souls. In terms of soul strength, your master, Bloodblade, is indeed the strongest, and he has a clear advantage. What a freak. Out of all the hegemons I've seen since I was successfully refined, his soul is the strongest. Let me ask you, is Monarch Green stronger than Yuanshu Master and the others? Dongwu Shuiying asked again. Yes. The Blackgourd's artifact spirit confirmed. You didn't see it, but your senior brother Monarch Green's soul is like an incomparably dazzling golden light. It's really overbearing and powerful. If he doesn't have a heaven-defying treasure, your senior brother Monarch Green's strength should be ranked third. Third, Dongbua Shui Ying was stunned. He was clearly stronger than the Primal Master and the Abyss Primogenitor, but he was only third? My Shirzun Bloodblade is first, Monarch Green is third. Then who is second? Dongbua Shui Ying asked. The one called the second Purgatory Ruler, the Black Gourd's artifact spirit replied. Dongbua Shui Ying was a little confused. Purgatory Ruler? There were a total of 3 hegemons in the Dark Abyss. Purgatory Ruler was the one who kept a low profile, Blood Ruler was the one who was very flamboyant, and Abyss Primogenitor was the most famous and had the highest status. But according to the Black Gourd's method of judging strength, Bloodblade was first, Purgatory Ruler was second, and Monarch Green was third. Finally, with the arrival of Blood Ruler and Myriad God Palace Master, the 10 hegemons were all gathered. Immediately, under the guidance of the attendants, they took their seats. Monarch Dongbua, please. An attendant came to lead the way. Dongbua Shui Ying brought his wife and children over. The seats had already been arranged. Among them, the 10 highest seats were undoubtedly the 10 hegemons. One could see the 10 hegemons taking their seats. In front of the 10 hegemons, there were 30 overparagons. For instance, Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master Dongbua Shui Ying, Monarch of Destruction, and the others were seated under Bloodblade. For instance, Paragon Huocheng was seated under Primal Master. Below them, there were a large number of powerful existences. Snow Eagle, Bloodblade, looked at his disciple, feeling a little puzzled. He transmitted, I can feel that your soul is somewhat unstable. What's wrong? Are you injured? Dongbua Shui Ying was a little surprised that his Shirzun could sense his injuries. He immediately transmitted back, it's fine. It doesn't affect my strength. I should be able to fully recover in 10,000 years. Amen. If you can't resolve it, just let me know. Bloodblade nodded and didn't bother with him any further. It was normal for his disciple to experience some setbacks. It was only because he discovered that this involved his soul that he asked. Since his disciple could handle it, he naturally wouldn't act. Your senior apprentice brother has already broken through to become a ruler. You have to cultivate well. You are different from him. Whether he becomes a ruler or not doesn't affect him much. But if you can't, you won't be able to transcend. Bloodblade transmitted, I don't wish for the two of us to be separated forever in the future. Yes, this disciple will definitely do his best. Dongbua Shui Ying could sense his master's concern for him. He couldn't help but feel touched. After that, with a few words from Monarch Green, the banquet officially began. Snow Eagle, Jing Xiao, who was seated beside Dongbua Shui Ying, transmitted, Why aren't you chatting with the surrounding paragons? Why are you lowering your head and drinking? I'm thinking about something. Dongbua Shui Ying's mind was in a mess. He had just asked the Black Gourd's artifact spirit. Now that the Pantheon Palace Master and the Bloody Ruler are here, 10 rulers have gathered. You can use your own method to determine the strength of the 10 rulers. The Black Gourd's artifact spirit quickly came up with a ranking. This ranking was based on the most fundamental aspect of one's soul. First, Bloodblade. Second, Purgatory Ruler. Third, Monarch Green. Fourth, Primal Master. Fifth, Bloody Ruler. Sixth, Abyss Primogenitor. Seventh, Pantheon E. Eighth, Pantheon Palace Master. Ninth, Temporal Island Lord. 10th, Empress Qianhe. This ranking caused Dongbua Shui Ying to lose the mood to chat with the paragons next to him. His heart was in turmoil because this ranking did not match up with much of the information he knew. Didn't they say that the Bloody Ruler was very weak? Pang, he was able to suppress him before he became a ruler? Even Monarch Green was able to fight him when he was a paragon. But he's actually stronger than the Abyss Primogenitor and Pang, who became a ruler? Dongbua Shui Ying shuddered. Even after Pang, he became a ruler. His soul aura was not as strong as the Bloody Ruler. This was not normal. I heard that my master and the Bloody Ruler were schemed against during the fight for the treasure, and the Bloody Ruler was killed? Dongbua Shui Ying was even more confused. Firstly, the Bloody Ruler seemed to have hidden his strength too well. Secondly, The Purgatory Ruler and Monarch Green had hidden their strength too. The Purgatory Ruler's strength was actually on par with the Bloodblade. There are 3 rulers in the Abyss. I didn't expect the Abyss primogenitor to be the weakest. Dongbua Shuang thought to himself, what's the secret behind this? He had hidden some of his strength, but he did not expect many of these rulers to do the same. Some of them even hid their strength very well. Like the Bloody Ruler, he did not even care about his reputation. He did not care about being considered the weakest ruler. Empress Qianhe's strength is very accurate. She is indeed the weakest. Dongbua Shuang thought to himself, that arrogant and sinister Temporal Island Lord is always stirring up trouble. I didn't expect him to only be the second weakest. In the drawing, Dongbua Shuang was already an adult, while his brother Dongbua Qingshi was still a teenager. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.